It is 10:15, a little past, because I have a special guest with me today, and I took a moment to visit with him. We'll have people trickling in here very soon into the comments, I'm hoping. But hey, Utah, I'm back inside of you. Don't worry. I feel it too. That's good. I just wanted to rush in with a quick disclaimer before we get to talking about tonight's stories. We're going to talk about Ted Bundy and the claims by Utah County Sheriff's Office. And I'm fortunate to have my guest, Chris Mortensen, on with us tonight to talk about that. To talk actually about kind of how fishy this is. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not saying they haven't done the work. I'm just saying the two guys you're going to see here in a few minutes have done more research on Laura Aime as a victim of Ted Bundy than just about anybody in the world. and I'm proud to be one of them. But we're going through the evidence that we have. And then going over the claims made today in court. So if I can get Chris back, I did just lose him, but if we get him back, we're gonna go over it together. We are going to get started with Jawohl, which is an experimental song. Let me know how you like it. Celebrating how we are celebrating an age of short memories, where we are going to talk about Kai Schwemmer, LDS extremist, and the new connections we can now make through Gays for Trump co-founder Scott Presler, in between Jeffrey Epstein and Tim Ballard. Now, no one is guilty purely by association. All opinions are those of the host, guests, and commentators. We only know what we know and read, and then we form our opinions. And opinions do not exclusively represent those, or especially represent those of the Church of Korihor. The Hellfire Agency podcast is one mission where we have an opportunity on behalf of the Church of Korihor to examine possibilities and some critical thinking about some reporting. So we are going to get started as we get some of our associates, our regulars, into the room before we get talking about LDS extremism, Tim Ballard, Jeffrey Epstein, Kai Schwemmer, and LDS extremism. But first, we got to talk about today's updates about Ted Bundy. Now, Utah County suddenly has decided, definitely is what everyone else knew him to be, the killer of Laura Aime in American Fort Canyon in 1974. Let us begin.
Tap the stein, raise it high, ask me why I forget. We scroll past headlines every hour like confetti in the air. History's just that boring class we all slept through in the chair. Did that happen? Who can say? Sounds like yesterday's old show. We just shrug and change the channel as the gardens start to grow. Jawohl! They're marching down Main Street. They bring casseroles and cookies and a handbook wrapped in lace. Shake your hand as for your secrets with a glow upon their face. Sign right here, it's just a trifle, trade your thinking for a pew. We don't read the terms and settings, just click yes and say me too. Jawohl! To the age of tiny memories. Jawohl! Where the past is just a rumor in the fog. Jawohl! Let the earnest, eager visionaries search wept. Javo, surely nothing bad will happen. Kinda, sorta, if we just forget we wept. Who remembers books and questions? Who recalls the warning signs? We just love a tidy story with a choir and straight lines. Gather round, they sing in unison. Close your eyes, the truth feels warm. We say sure, that sounds delightful, as the thunder builds a storm. Javo, to the age of tiny memories. Rust, raise a glass and laugh it all away. Javo, let the cheerful chosen colonies Heimat paint the future beige and gray, like Edelweiss on every hill, smiling from a postcard frame. Javo, surely nothing bad will come now, as we all forget their name.
Javol. All right. We're going to leap right into it because we have a special guest today, and I don't want to waste any time because he's one of my favorite interviewees, and he and I are both now have our glasses nearby to show that time has passed since last we talked. How you doing,
Yes.
Chris Mortensen?
¿Qué pasa?
Que pasa? It's Captain Borax himself. How are you, sir?
Oh, pretty good, man. What's happening?
Oh, apparently all of a sudden, everything you and I have been saying for years has suddenly become relevant again, thanks to the benevolence of the Utah County Sheriff's Office. How fortunate are we?
Oh, man, you're going to have to catch me up. Please give me the catch-up version.
Okay, so today, the quick catch-up is going to be, this is the, let me sum up. Today, Utah County Sheriff Mike Smith, who is, and this is why it's relevant today more than the fact that it was an announcement today, is a close associate of Mr. Timothy Ballard, announced that the Utah Crime Department, the forensics team, the forensics group, they have a ridiculously long name I never remember to say, right? But anyways, their forensics team have published that they are able to confirm that Ted Bundy killed Laura Aime. Is that a shock to you, Captain Borax?
Well, how? I mean, how? What are they talking about here?
Well, now that is a great question.
I mean,
because we've been hot on this for years. I mean, nobody's been hot on it more than you. I mean, maybe our associate out in the South, but I mean, why I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But anyways, was it Kevin? What's my guy?
Kevin Sullivan. Kevin.
Yes,
Sullivan.
Kevin Sullivan. That's right. Good guy.
Yep.
Interesting character. Wrote more about Bundy than anybody else. But again, he relies on research by other people. And you were one of, I would say, probably one of the more accomplished Bundy researchers that there's ever been. And I mean, you've talked to people, lots of people. One of the interesting interviews, this is how we associate this started, is I got introduced to your channel, Captain Borax, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because of an interview that you published. You did a phone interview with one of the people directly connected to the Ted Bundy prosecution or attempted prosecution of the murder of 17-year-old Laura Aime, who was found sometime within a day of Thanksgiving Day by two hikers in American Fort Canyon.
Yeah, that's funny.
And so she was found murdered. There was this investigation, which I think we can all agree, even Owen Kornberg, the guy who was in charge of it, pretty well told you, I think, in some confidence, and we've talked about this before, that they pretty badly, Utah County Sheriff's Office kind of badly botched the investigation into the murder of this girl, and this Jack Mormon girl. And Laura Aime, they've been in this interview with Brent Bullock, who still lives in Utah County, I believe, you talked to him about the evidence that was taken from Laura Aime's body. This is which included. Do you remember much about what evidence that they actually had at that point?
You know, I remember that there wasn't a whole lot of evidence, and one of the things is that, you know, that was kind of the thing in the 70s. Brent Bullock was really mad because one of the things is there was no evidence collected, and that Owen Kornberg. Okay, so the way it breaks down is, you know, had Owen Kornberg, who was a brand new detective that worked for Mac Hawley, and I know you have Mac Hawley's book, which is really cool.
I have it around here somewhere. Yeah.
I was just looking at my copy of it the other day. I was going through some things, and I know that you have one too. That's a rare copy.
Yeah. I mean, it's only got really two paragraphs about Laura Aime, but they really sum up for me why this is so critical. Basically, this is Mike Smith's predecessor, 2-3 generations removed, and as Utah County Sheriff. And he and Mac Hawley, the guy who was in office when, you know, refused to prosecute Bundy because he said in that book he didn't believe that Bundy did it. And Brent Bullock was very much convinced that was not because he was convinced by the evidence, right? I mean,
no, I think the kind of the vibe I got from, you know, and there's nothing, you know, solid, but what I got from Brent is like that Mac was like really turned off by the whole, everything is Ted Bundy, because it was kind of a big thing at the moment. And he felt like everybody was like, oh yeah, Ted Bundy did it. He did this girl up there. He did this girl over there. It was Ted Bundy. And he was like really like turned off by that. And or Mac Hawley was, and he was kind of disgusted that, you know, Mac Hawley didn't have any history as a law enforcement person, no education. He hadn't been trained as a law enforcement person. In fact, he even made some comment, I think on my interview, where he said, yeah, he owned like a flower shop or something before that, and you know, so.
It worked.
Pretty interesting.
The cooperative shopping center or something. I don't remember.
Something. And I need to go back through that book, but yeah, he was very turned off by the whole Mac Hawley thing, and you know, and I think also probably there's kind of like there's this inner agency kind of rivalry too. You know, I mean, like, you know, who was it? Noel Wooten, who was the
county attorney.
District attorney, and, you know, which is a very important job for sure. And Brent worked directly for him, and Mac was like, you know, I got the vibe that like he looked at him kind of like as this like hillbilly, like, you know, the Andy, what was that TV show?
Andy Griffith.
Andy Griffith show kind of.
What's his detective's name?
Barney Fife.
Barney Fife. Yeah, he looked at him like a Barney Fife type character.
Like he looked at Owen Kornberg as kind of his Barney Fife, you know. So there was this kind of like vibe, you know, like they're hillbillies and they don't know anything, and so I don't know. It's very interesting.
As I recall, you talked to Brent, and he was Brent Bullock. He was who's now he's taught criminology courses up there in Utah County. Like he's a judge.
I think he became a judge. Yeah,
he became a judge, and I think he now sits on the Pleasant Grove. I remember I used to always drive past his campaign signs for city council. He's on Pleasant Grove City Council. I'm like, that's the guy I've been listening to on Captain Borax.
Oh, but anyways,
wow. Yeah. So Noel Wooten, as I understand it, Noel Wooten really had a hair up his ass to get this, forgive the expression, to find Laura Aime's killer, because this was just about the most gruesome murder, I mean, Utah had ever seen. And there were a lot in Utah, actually. And there were all these stories circulating. You were the one I talked to about this, who turned me on to this. That like there were stories about like her body had been hollowed out and stuffed with beer cans and stuff. I mean, it's like the stories got pretty out of hand, pretty wild, pretty quickly.
Urban legends, right?
Right. And but the guy they had go out and investigate, collect the testimonies from all the people, because the story was somebody saw her out in front of Mole Brown's cafe getting into a yellow Volkswagen. His Volkswagen wasn't yellow, but okay, never mind. Colors can change in memories and things like this.
Right.
Oh, but then it wasn't outside Mole Brown's cafe, where people claimed that Ted Bundy used to come down and hang out, with another guy, and they used to come down there in a pickup truck, not a white pickup truck like Bundy's, but a blue pickup truck. But okay,
it was
whatever.
A blue, right?
Right. And then all these people saw Laura Aime get into Bundy's car. But this was like way later when they finally started getting all these people's recollections. And Matt Hawley wasn't convinced, not a criminologist by any stretch of the imagination. But when they finally got Brent Bullock involved, when Brent Bullock and Noel Wooten, who's the prosecutor, right? He wants to put the screws to Bundy. I mean, that was the thing that I got really, was that Noel Wooten was like, we're going to prove that Bundy did this. Yeah. So he sent Brent Bullock, as I understand it, to face off with Mac Hawley, the sheriff, and with Owen Kornberg, his new detective, because this is his first case. And to tell them, we need the evidence from Laura Aime's body. Right. And his conclusion, as I recall, Brent Bullock's conclusion was what did he get off of this like closed door meeting with Kornberg and Hawley?
Well, they both had different stories, and Bullock's version was like they just stonewalled him, and I think he said that he had thrown it away at some point or something like that. And Bullock was like, "Oh my God, you threw it away. This is really serious. You can't just throw stuff like that away. You're coming up on federal charges." Like he was pissed off. And then when I talked to Kornberg, he said, "No, I was like my third week as a detective, and I just didn't collect it because I didn't know any better." So those were the two. Yeah.
The interesting thing for that with the two interviews that you showed me, that I got from you, was that you say that he was mad in the moment, Brent Bullock.
Yeah,
he was still mad. Like you talked to him. This is 50 years later, and he is livid.
Yeah, he was still pissed. You could tell. Yeah.
Yeah. And Kornberg was remorseful, from what I gather from your notes about he was like, look, I blame myself for this. And he went into teaching criminology, as I understand it, at UVU or something like that.
I don't recall. I'd have to go back and look, but but yeah, he was very remorseful about it and contrite. And he was like, you know what? We totally screwed up. I didn't know any better. And this is without any kind of prepping at all. I didn't ask him about it or anything. He just kind of threw that out there. So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. One of the people though, but now they claim, Mike, here's the thing, Mike Smith, he's in some hot water, I would say. I don't know that everybody's putting the screws to him, or the people who should be are, ever since this Tim Ballard case came up. And I don't know how closely you followed the whole Tim Ballard thing.
Not that much. Maybe you could kind of like cover that a little bit.
Sure. So Tim Ballard, founder of Operation Underground Railroad, now a guy who runs Tim Ballard Foundation. And according to his defense before the Utah Supreme Court, the movie Sound of Freedom coincidentally is about a man has his name and who's married to a woman with his wife's name and founded an organization with the same name, but has nothing to do with him whatsoever. But that's not what he's saying, since they came to the conclusion that this is coincidence. These people have the same names. It's strange. Utah justice is weird.
Yes, it is.
To say the least. You and I know this very well. But basically, they found, well, his assistant, Celeste Boris, accused him of raping her, and on operations with him in multiple places, including here in Utah. And she, as evidence, provided a leather skirt. If you're going to get this kind of sample, leather is probably a good way to go. Her leather skirt that with a swipe of Ballard's DNA shot across it, and she provided it to the officers. To the officers, it must have gone through Utah County Sheriff's Office at some point, because this was in Linden, and so she gave them this skirt and said that is Tim Ballard's DNA, and she got confirmation back from them saying that they could confirm that is Tim Ballard's DNA, 100% match, and since then, it's been like 2 years since that's happened, and nothing's come of it except that they decided not to press charges. And in multiple now jurisdictions now, they're just not pressing charges on it because there's not enough evidence. It's like she's got his boys on her skirt. I mean,
I think I'm gonna puke any second. But keep going. All right.
I love the way you preface that. That's good. But yeah, so I think that Mike Smith, this is speculation, but it seems to me Mike Smith has to save some face. And going back to a cold case like Laura Aime's, and the fact that people like you and I have been pointing out, Utah County's kind of sat on this for 50 years, and everyone else has decided it's done. Whenever it gets brought up, the conclusion is Bundy confessed to Laura Aime's murder. Therefore, you might as well write it off as Bundy killed her, even though Utah law enforcement never brought charges against him for it. But my understanding is when you look back at it, when you look at the interview with Couch and Bundy.
Dennis Couch. Yeah.
Yep, Dennis Couch. Is that he didn't confess to killing Laura. He got that far, and then he's like, and he like put his hands in his face in his hands and did his thing about, gosh, I can't remember. Maybe you can come back next week. And it's like, you're gonna be electrocuted to like next week, Ted. You're not gonna. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Maybe I can get. Maybe you could call the governor and get me another slam execution.
Right.
He was just using it to play along, but to the best of my knowledge, he never confessed to killing Laura.
No, there's no official confession of that at all anywhere. Yeah, that's crazy. I've never heard anything.
Go ahead.
No. Well, tell me, is that it? Is that all he says? He's just saying that there was it was proven, or
yeah. I've read now the New York Times article, the KSL article, and the Salt Lake Tribune article, and in each of those instances, they say that they're able to prove it now because of DNA evidence that allows them to take corroded samples of DNA, potentially from multiple persons, even after 50 years, and extract DNA as being from only one person, and that they conclude that it is Bundy. But unless you've got, forgive me, folks, for being graphic here, unless you have got the pantyhose that Laura Aime was strangled with, or the semen that was collected from her vagina,
right,
or her ring, or the skin cells or whatever from under her fingernails, unless you have any of that, I don't get how they can claim that they have conclusive DNA evidence that it was Bundy just from DNA.
And none of that has been presented by,
to the best of my knowledge. To the best of my knowledge. Now I do have to wonder if a grandma order, which is become kind of a joke. Grandma, for those of you out there don't know, that's our Utah's Freedom of Information Act request kind of system. And it can take like months or years to get something done. I still have a grandma request that still has never been answered by Utah law enforcement, in which I learned how to submit a grandma request saying I want an actual detailed list of all the evidence that Utah County still has, or their last known records regarding the murder, of the evidence for what collected for Laura Aime. I still have yet to hear mom from the state of Utah about this. So, and it's been 2 years, 3 years maybe.
Where did you request it from?
I requested it from the sheriff's office, from Utah County Sheriff. Yeah, and from what I understand, the interesting thing with the interesting correlation with Bundy, since you seem interested in this, I don't know if that's real or not, but with Tim Ballard, is that the guy who was following up on it was Herbert's. What's his name? Herbert's at KU TV, and Howard Herbert's. Anyway, Herbert's. He's the best. He's like the best guy they have up there right now, and he went and he demanded that he submitted a grandma request to get the actual criminology or the actual DNA evidence about Tim Ballard's skirt, or Celeste Boris's skirt with Tim Ballard's stuff, and they were like, or the criminal complaint, the actual complaint from Celeste Boris that Tim Ballard had raped her, and the Utah County Sheriff's Office was like, we don't know what you're talking about, and he's like, this was filed. And we have Celeste Boris talking about it, and they're like, yeah, we have no record. And they like 3 or 4 times came back and said there's either that there was no report, or that they were embarrassed to admit they had misplaced the report, or that they weren't sure or that they weren't sure where it had landed. And finally, he submitted a complaint to the oversight board that they had in Salt Lake, saying, okay, they can't just lose evidence. And I'm sitting over here with my Laura Aime story 3 years old going, they can. They absolutely can.
Those are all embarrassing.
Yeah, that's all embarrassing. That's right.
Oh my God.
And finally, they showed up. They sent an attorney who had to show up and admit before the law enforcement oversight committee, and say, oh, you mean this rape complaint? It's like, oh my gosh. Oh my Lord. The woman who was in charge, because it's a civilian oversight committee, and the woman in charge of it laughed out loud. Like, there's video of her. Yeah. She laughed out loud and said, you've got to be kidding me. You just suddenly found it. You just expect us to believe that. And so there's been speculation for some time. Mike Smith and Tim Ballard are friends. And so that's how that comes up.
What would be the motivation to suddenly find that,
Exactly. I think that suddenly find, are we back to talking about Laura Aime? Are we talking about, okay. Let's go back to our shared area of expertise. I think that they're trying to draw away fire about the Tim Ballard case still hanging out there.
Distract us. Okay.
Right. So now they're going to solve an old case that I feel like you and I and Brent Bullock and Kevin Sullivan and, the people that you've interviewed, we've been bringing up. I mean, I think that this has been accelerated since we've been talking about Laura Aime this last years.
It's been going crazy. Yeah.
Including I included in one of my early episodes, an interview I did with you, and thanks to you, a part of an interview you did with Laura Aime's sister, Michelle, who also spoke at today's press conference.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Michelle, great people. I felt really impressed by I loved that interview. I thought you did an amazing job interviewing her and getting to the best of the memories.
You're talking about Evelyn.
I am talking about Evelyn. What did I say before?
Michelle.
Oh, Michelle. Oh, that was Evelyn, wasn't it? No, it was Michelle they had today.
Oh, okay.
Okay, no, you're talking. Yeah, that's right. You're right, Evelyn. But Evelyn, as I remember, you had interviewed her, and she talked about how like it was that summer Laura drove her back down to that one county, Carbon County or whatever it was, not Carbon County. Anyways, Fairfax, I believe, or Fairview, and that's when Laura, in somewhat odd, clairvoyance, had that song came on the radio, and it was Seasons in the Sun.
Goodbye.
Yeah, we had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun. And that she had mentioned to Evelyn, I want them to play this at my funeral. And there she's like, you're going to die an old lady, and they're not going to play a rock and roll song at old ladies, and then of course that year, later that year, they had her actual funeral, and her dad wanted to play the song because Evelyn told him, Laura wanted it. Do you remember that story?
Oh my goodness.
This was years ago, man. This is years. I'm putting your memory to the task here.
Put me on the spot. Yeah. You know what? I don't. I need to revisit that though. But I know Evelyn actually passed away recently too.
Did Evelyn pass away?
Yes.
That's too bad. Oh man.
I think it's been over a year ago. I think maybe 2 years ago, but yeah, she passed away as well. So I'm real happy that I was able to speak with her because wow, what an emotional, interview with her. Definitely very emotional.
It was her recollections, her interview. I remember very well because, of course, I repurposed it. And I said,
good for you.
I said, Captain Borax, this is a good channel, and I do mention your channel whenever I said it's a good channel.
I know you're always great about that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. And I said, but she said that Laura, she said that her father wanted to play Seasons in the Sun in the chapel because at their ward down there in Fairview, and
that's right.
And the bishop told him, no, you're not going to play a rock and roll song, which is rock and roll songs go. Seasons in the Sun.
It's not very rock and roll, yeah.
you know rock and roll. This is your other area of expertise.
See, I don't know. Well, is that rock and roll?
I mean, it's just about the most mild thing. I mean, I guess if the Beatles are rock and roll, but they had moments where they really got rock and roll. I mean,
it's more like kind of Brad or Donald Fagen or something. Yeah,
right. And but they wouldn't let him play it, and Evelyn said that was part of what distanced her dad from the church was that at that tender moment, and he had just a simple request: let us bring in the hi-fi and play Laura's song that she wanted. They wouldn't let him do it, and he finally had to just succumb and just say, well, I guess we can't have it the way that Laura wanted it, and he was pretty pissed about that. Right. So that's too bad, man. It was such a Adam Herbert's Harry reminds me. Thank you, Harry. That's right. Adam Herbert's this guy's name. So anyways.
Yeah.
We live in interesting times.
Yes, we do. We could go off on another tangent with that for
sure. I want to thank my friend Chris Mortensen, also known as Captain Borax, who you have performances still lined up. You play music out there in Vegas, right?
Well, yeah, I just do stuff on the side just for fun. We play Las Vegas and play in little bands around town. If you're ever in town, check out the Perfect Strangers. It's a Deep Purple tribute band, and I also play with the Velvet Moon Band, which is classic rock all over town. But yeah, just kind of fun stuff. So come on down and hang out.
I remember you'd played something. If I remember correctly, you had posted something, I think, on Facebook or YouTube, and it was you playing. Wasn't it playing "Smoke on the Water" on like a harpsichord or something?
Hey, practically could have been, yeah.
And I'm like, that's what you need, man. You need that 19th century Revolutionary War era remake of rock songs. That's that.
You know what? If I didn't do that, I'm gonna do it tonight, man. I'm gonna record that. I can hear I can hear it right now.
All right, I'm going to let you go, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us, and I appreciate it. And let's
Thanks, brother.
hope that there's actual justice for Laura Aime on the horizon.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep an eye out. Wow, this is crazy. This case never stops. It never stops going or loses interest, and it's very interesting. All the developments. So yeah.
Yep. Good to see you, my friend.
All right. See you later, Ben. Bye.
Bye. So that was the Captain Borax, friends. I mean, this guy, he got me really into Laura Aime and the story of what became known as, I think, the first full-length episode of Hellfire Agency ever was The Girl in the Canyon. And I've changed format since then, obviously. Some friends of mine who are podcasters convinced me, Joe, you got to go live. And I'm just like, if I go live, I'll just ramble. To wit, let's ramble. This week, we got some more updates on what I am now coining the hashtag LDSS. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, and I look forward to it. Directed at me, not at the Church of Korihor. My name is Joe Rollins. Send your cease and desist orders, care of Joe Rollins, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And complaints department. In any event, but I wanted to show this to you. Okay, let me add this in here. I'm going to remove from studio my song. I hope you guys liked our song. It was just a quick throw out there. I'm sorry that it looks like Tim Ballard wasn't here. I did say 10 Mountain Standard Time there, Lisa. Did I not do that? At 10:15. Let me go ahead and show you a Guardian article. Now, some of you may remember a while ago that we did an episode called Kai Schwemmer Knows Nothing. And it was all about, let's see if I can get that screen right. Close enough. Oh, let me close this thing. Blah, blah, blah. Where's it? I have so many things open. Closing that. No, I'll leave that. Close that. All right. Maybe later. Okay, so this guy is Kai Schwemmer. I don't recommend watching his show. But if you want to know more about him, his YouTube channel is Kai Clips. You can also find him on Twitter. He's on Kick. I don't even know that was a thing, really. And Kai, basically, I called him out a little while ago in an episode called Kai Schwemmer Knows Nothing, which is very funny if you watched Hogan's Heroes. And if you don't know what Hogan's Heroes is, you missed out in life. Ask a Gen X person. But basically, he threw out an 88 in the midst of what was a pretty racist episode of his show, Kai Clips, one of many sexist clips. And I pointed out that I had called out in his comments, because I watch his show live, so you don't have to, that he threw out there a thanks for the 88. And I had asked him, what does that mean? Wait a minute, what's 88? Who got a thanks for the 88? And it was another Mormon. Kai brands himself as a Mormon Nick Fuentes, basically. I mean, he's described that way, and he leans into it. Somebody else who calls themselves Asian Mormon. I don't know who they are. They're on one of his networks. And he said, thanks for the 88. I happened to throw out there back at him and say, and in the comments, and say, what is 88? What does that mean? Now, of course, you wouldn't think I would ask if I didn't know what 88 was. You see, the rumor is that Kai Schwemmer is one of many people, one of many fascist admirers inside the movement of young Mormon conservatives. And since I happened to make an episode just about how many times on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, he happened to do a whole episode basically on how Martin Luther King Jr. didn't deserve veneration and throw out a bunch of racist dog whistles before taking comments from his supporters, and one of them apparently gave him $88, and he said, "Thanks for the 88. What a banger!" And played it because he had played a song that his friend Asian Mormon had sent to him to play, which was a Bavarian kind of polka song, like the one not the one that I opened with today. By the way, I got a copyright strike for showing that episode, for showing his episode where he played that song, a clip of that song. Anyways, so they play the song and he says, "Thanks for the 88." Now, you wouldn't think I would call that out or make mention of it, or now mention it in 2 episodes. I think now maybe actually 3 episodes so far I've mentioned this without knowing what 88 is. 88, Javo. Thank you, Harry. Thank you. 88 is internet slang for Heil Hitler. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. And so when people throw out 88s, it's a Heil Hitler thing. And this is just become normal inside among Mormon extremism, to the point where I've decided I'm going to start the hashtag that will not take off, as none of my hashtags do. I have one hashtag turned out pretty well, surprisingly, given how long it was, and that was Tim Ballard's secret whiteboard meeting on TikTok. But I'm going to get this going here. We're going to call it from now on, just to keep it short, but to keep it distinctive. What we're going to talk about here, we're talking about racist, sexist extremism inside among Mormon youth, and we're going to call it hashtag LDSS. And that's Latter-day Saints. Anyways, let's look at this Guardian article. I won't read you the whole thing, but it's worth a read. You look up college Republicans director made racist and sexist remarks on live streams. Now, I just want to preface this by saying there are college Republican associations, and then there is the College Republicans of America. And we're going to get into it a little bit here. But basically, there's the new thing since Charlie Kirk is no longer among us is to see who is going to start the new Turning Point USA. Now that Turning Point USA is just the Erica Kirk show. And it's curious, the names that keep coming up, and many of them are Mormon names, because a lot of Mormons were very well connected inside Turning Point USA. And in fact, a lot of them keep coming up in my research. I'm not going to go over all of them. I go through so many things. I go down such a rabbit hole when I start pursuing, investigating stories, and I'll see these names pop up again and again. Tyler Boyer is one that keeps coming up. If you've been following the whole Candace Owens thing, Candace Owens basically, and I don't necessarily agree with her. In fact, I don't agree with her, has basically come out to say that the state of Israel has had her friend Charlie Kirk murdered. New developments on that, by the way. It looks like maybe, according to forensics experts, the round that was collected in Utah at UVU campus, can we say it that way? The round that was collected doesn't match Tyler's grandfather's 30-06. Now, does that mean they can establish that within reason? Does that mean that they have published the data of why that is? What it means is that there's yet another reason why a lot of people who are following this story of Tyler, not just myself, have come out to say nothing about this story about Tyler Robinson is adding up. It's looking like a hit job orchestrated by law enforcement, by Utah law enforcement and or the FBI. And so I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying that the opinion keeps coming back up. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, is that right? Are you following this closely, sis? Because I'd love to connect with you. I rely heavily on my researchers. I don't know. Harry had a good childhood. Harry had a good childhood. Wasn't it Colonel Klink? Anyways, I forgot. Anyways, yeah, and so it's weird, but in effect, yeah, Yeah, so let's just leave that story alone because we don't have enough new information to really cover it. So, anyways, back to Kai. So Kai has since been made political director of an organization called College Republicans of America. As far as I can tell, they are a small group. They are not the main group. And I am frankly startled because of everything that I have talked about with Kai Schwemmer and what has now been covered in a little more detail in this Guardian article. And so I would recommend it because I actually learned things that I didn't know about Kai from this article. So I recommend that you read it. But I'm just going to highlight a few things. Otherwise, very much worth the read. Schwemmer said that hold on. Okay, Kai Schwemmer, newly appointed College Republicans of America political director, has made racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic, and sexist statements while espousing extremist right-wing views on abortion. Now, mind you, he did that mainly before he was political director for College Republicans of America. Not that it necessarily makes that much of a difference, but it's worth noting, I think. Schwemmer said that he would accept a world in which slavery was legal if abortion was criminalized, describes himself as very much an anti-universal suffrage guy. In other words, he doesn't think women should vote, and accepts a supporter's description of him as, quote unquote, our Mormon Nick Fuentes. Now, I just want to point out, in case Kai ever actually sees this episode, I doubt he has seen the other episode that I did on him, apparently. I've compared him to Nick Fuentes in his live chats and been told he's nothing like Nick Fuentes, A, and B, what's wrong with Nick Fuentes? And when I mention anti-Semitism, people, or racism or sexism with Nick Fuentes, and the fact that Nick Fuentes is a fascist, that's my assessment of the man. I get pushback from people. I get a lot of pushback, actually, from the groypers about how Nick Fuentes is not any of those things. But in any event, so returning to the article, man, I have too many tabs open still. So he's referred to as our Mormon Nick Fuentes. Now, here's the thing: he started a show called Kai Clips, and then, but while he was doing the show, he also happened to in the midst of it, he took a 2-year break. Well, he took a 2-year break to go to Argentina on a mission for the Mormon Church, as well you should, Kai. And then he apparently claims that during those 2 years in Argentina, he shed himself of any racist opinions he had before. I covered this guy's episode from just a few weeks ago, where he, on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, was talking about how Martin Luther King Jr. was a communist who fit all the marks of a communist as laid out. He didn't mention this at that time, but I happened to mention it in a follow-up episode about how the points that these Turning Point USA guys keep bringing up about socialism and communism being secretly hidden among us, even though the Cold War is over, fellas. I hate to tell you this. It all comes out of a book called The Naked Communist by a Mormon firebrand who was called on the carpet even by the Mormon Church by the name of Dr. Cleon Skousen. And that's how I came to say, okay, I guess I'm like permanently connected to this story because I grew up in Arizona, a devout Skousenite. I grew up in the same time period as Erica Kirk was coming up. She was in Tucson. We didn't date. I doubt I would have dated her before she was Miss America or otherwise. Erica, stop calling me. It's never gonna happen. Especially because, never mind. Anyways, so I'm gonna go back to the guy here, but he apparently, look, when you accuse Martin Luther King Jr. of being a communist, and that's why should be celebrated on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, I don't think you've shed yourself of that many racist opinions. I'll just say maybe a few racist opinions about Argentines, but having served myself a mission in Latin America, I highly doubt that. Although people who serve in Argentina do genuinely tend to fall in love with Argentine people. I fell in love with the Peruvian people. I will get a lot of hate from Argentine people about that. Just kidding. I thought this was interesting. Basically, they mentioned that they tried to get access. The Guardian articles writer, I'm going to just go ahead and read their name, Jason Wilson, was able to research and find these older broadcasts where Kai Schwemmer made some of these more controversial statements by purchasing from his Gumroad. I don't know if you know much about how things are sold on the internet, but Gumroad, I'd never heard of it before. Anyways, but it's curious that basically to get access to his really controversial stuff, you got to pay Kai. And apparently that cost $5. I didn't do it. I read the article and I don't feel like I need to. And anyway, some of the things, highlights that they found in some of these older Kai clips that were behind the paywall, the $5 paywall. He walks a user through a sentence of anti-Semitic leading questions on the Omegle platform before directing her to Fuente's streaming site. That's Cozy, as I understand, it's cozy.tv or something like that, cozy.ai or something. Nick Fuentes group. And then in other claims, he claims gay men are weaponizing gyms to give you AIDS and celebrates a DNA test he says proved that, quote, I am 0% Jewish. Wow. Cool. That's not Yavol at all. Not Yavol at all. The Guardian emailed detailed requests for comments to Schwemmer, blah, blah, blah. Def Tischhauser, a senior research analyst at the Southern Poverty Law Center, which, if you know anything about the SPLC, they track hate groups, said he had been monitoring Schwemmer since 2002 as a far-right figure in the orbit of Fuentes, who has previously espoused support for Hitler. Tischhauser said, anytime someone claims they have left the movement, you need to watch them closely to see if their actions match their rhetoric and if they are being sincere. Hopefully this live remains available and published. Everybody give it an upvote so we can show the algorithm that, this is, we don't like to censor ourselves. You ever heard one of these broadcasts on YouTube where they censor every other word because you can't even say the man's name anymore? I've said it now, so multiple times. So let's just make sure that everybody, leave a comment, leave a like if you could, if you're feeling generous, so that we can show the algorithm and show YouTube and Google that, guys, it's important that we can actually talk about these things. There's a new free speech, quote unquote, free speech platform that people can participate in where they don't have to do that anymore. And I know that because I've built it. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But so he talks about how he's not a groyper, which are what followers of Nick Fuentes call themselves. People who follow Nick Fuentes often say they're not groypers. So anyways, cozy.tv is the name of the platform after all. A platform founded by Fuentes after bans from mainstream platforms. So he created his own free speech thing. But even it's so controversial to follow Nick Fuentes publicly that Nick Fuentes actually apparently, and I've seen this before, I couldn't cite to you directly where, so I'm just going to ask you to take my word for it, where he does kind of encourage his followers, like, don't tell people that you watch my stuff, don't bring me up if you don't have to, because I am tainted and that's going to ruin your street cred, it's going to ruin your credibility. So he actually is kind of like trying to take his own followers kind of, he wants them to be able to appeal to mainstream voters and to pull real political movement inside the Republican Party and inside CPAC, the conservative movement, because now Nick Fuentes is basically associated with fascism, and for good reason. He's very clearly a fascist. But you have these people who espouse the same views, and then if you ever mention, that's kind of Nick Fuentes, like they either deny that it has anything to do with Nick Fuentes, or they say, so what? And what's wrong with Nick Fuentes? He's a smart guy. And I just one of many voices I listen to, and you say he is a Nazi, and then they fall apart. To this day, the number one short I have the most views here on YouTube is where I call out Milo Yiannopoulos for being so much like Nick Fuentes, and the Nick Fuentes, the Groypers came after me and started downvoting the video, but also sharing it apparently, and also commenting, and it took off with all the engagement. So do again, friends. Jonathan Greenblatt, the Anti-Defamation League's chief executive. You remember the ADL is a Jewish, primarily Jewish group that fights anti-Semitism in the mainstream. They do some good work. Reportedly said Schwemmer had appeared at Fuentes' conferences, streams on his platforms, and has spread conspiracy theories about Zionists in America. We're going to talk about that a little bit. That's actually true and very interesting as we go into the next story, that I'm going to cover, which is about Scott Presler. Leora Rez, Stop Anti-Semitism's executive director, said the appointment undermines the credibility of the organization. Reporting by the Popular Information and Jewish Insider documented Schwemmer's attendance as a special guest at Fuentes America First Political Action Conference. You notice how they all start to sound the same, okay? America First Political Action Conference is not the rallies, the Trump rallies, right? The Trump rallies were called while ago. I have it pulled up on the Epstein Ballard matrix. It was so similar to this that you could easily mistake the two if you're not looking for it. America First is the keyword you want to look for. America First, if you don't know, was a far right wing slogan used by pro-Nazi Americans who wanted to create their own party, who wanted to recreate the success that the Germans had with their version here in America around the same time. There was a whole America First party. Anyways, and so that organization, the America First PAC, is the one founded by Nick Fuentes. And Kai apparently appeared or attended as a guest at their conference in 2022, and his appearance in a pro Fuentes documentary in which he said the influencer had, quote, woke me up to immigration. Kai is very much anti-immigrant. In response, Schwemmer reportedly issued a statement saying his past comments should not be taken to accurately reflect my views or demeanor now, describing himself as, quote, not a Groyper, but simply and unapologetically an American nationalist. CRA President Martin Bertow was unapologetic, writing that he had come to the decision that I would like to apologize to absolutely nobody. Very, very important. If you don't, so CRA is College Republicans of America. Their president is Martin Bertow. I want to take a moment now. I'm going to remove this article and show you Martin Bertow. Share screen. One of these days, I am going to vibe code. Now that I'm a vibe coding genius, I am going to vibe code the hell out of my own version of StreamYard. Never use StreamYard again. But then I probably won't. I'm probably going to stop streaming to YouTube at some point over the summer. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm hoping to move all my live streaming over to the Korihor app. I did want to show you this though. Okay, this is the LinkedIn page for handsome AF Martin Bertow. I hope everybody understands that's very tongue-in-cheek. This is the guy we're talking about when he says the president, the leader of College Republicans for America, who apparently has appointed Kai to be his the political director for their organization. This is the guy, and he says he apologizes for nothing. Well, just look at his face. You knew that already. Let's look at his career. This is his LinkedIn profile. First of all, LinkedIn profile. You are a child, friend. And there is a LinkedIn profile. You see that I have a LinkedIn profile. Am I paying for premium? Oh, no, it's saying I can with premium. No, thank you. You guys know the guy who started LinkedIn is dirty in the Epstein files, right? Anyways, and this platform is disgusting. I hate it. I'd probably take myself off of it, to be honest with you. Martin Bertow is president of College Republicans of America. Here's his experience. Since August 2025, he has been president of College Republicans of America. Since June of 2025, It was not that earlier. He's a representative of Campus Victory Project. If you don't know, Campus Victory Project is an outreach project to register students as Republicans. It's put on by was founded in conjunction with Action by Turning Points USA. Chairman since June of 2024 to June of 2025 was chairman of California College Republicans. And from April 2024 to May 2025, was president of UC Berkeley College Republicans. And prior to that, January 2024 to April 2025, he was central committeeman and youth liaison for Alameda County Republican Party. In other words, Martin Bertau has more or less found his calling in life. And apparently it is whatever MAGA tells him to do, he will just do it. And on behalf of the Groypers, frankly. All right, let me get back to The Guardian. We'll review this only very briefly. Some of the more interesting things before we go. We're going to get on to how this ended up with poor Kai Schwemmer getting his ass added into the Tim Ballard, Jeffrey Epstein matrix. All right, share screen. We're going to finish up with this article real quickly. Mormon Nick Fuentes. Boom. We already talked about this. Okay, in a post mission stream. Schwemmer reportedly deleted all X posts made before September 2025. In a post-mission stream, Schwemmer described his politics as far right and expressed a desire to mainstream those positions. So hasn't changed that much. I consider myself dissident right or like kind of reactionary right, he said in response to a viewer's question. He listed other terms for his position: dissident right, reactionary right, alt-right, alt-light, like there's all of these different words for it. Cristofascist is one of them. Apparently he didn't know. Schwemmer joked, Nick and I disagree on a lot of things. I'm pro lifting weights. I'm very unabashedly pro lifting weights. I obviously am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So you got that divide there. True, Nick Fuentes is not Mormon. In an August 2025 debate on the Politically Provoked podcast, asked directly whether he was a Fuentes fan, Schwemmer replied, "Yes, I am. I am a fan of Nick." This is August 2025. Okay, so it hasn't changed that much. Additionally, Schwemmer appeared on a viral episode. I think they misspelled Schwemmer there. It's Schwemmer, friends, not Schwimmer. Schwemmer is from Band of Brothers. Also, friends. Appeared on a viral episode of the YouTube show Jubilee last July, in which journalist Mehdi Hassan debated far-right conservatives. Although he was not asked to define his political position on that broadcast. Lorber said, this is another one of these hate group researchers that they interviewed, Schwemmer knows better than everyone that a lot of young men in conservative politics sympathize with Fuentes and agree with a lot of what he says, incel types, or find it very distasteful to disavow Fuentes. Again, like I said, I mentioned Nick Fuentes, I get comments from every incel who still can't get over his sister telling him to go back to his room. In an appearance on the YouTube channel Modern Day Debate, archived as members-only content by that channel in July 2025. Not sure what the story is of Modern Day Debate. I've tried to get on that program, and the guy very nicely responded to me and said, "You sound like an interesting person, but right now I'm working on a lot of things at the same time. Hit me up later." And I don't know. Anyways, Schwemmer team. If anybody wants me to debate anybody for any reason with enough interest, I'm up for it. Just tell me. Schwemmer teamed up with another streamer who broadcasts under the alias Shellshock to argue against abortion. Asked by an opponent whether a 15-year-old who had been sexually assaulted by her uncle should carry the resulting pregnancy to term, Schwemmer said, "Yes, I would agree with that." Later in the same discussion, he went further. An opponent, a first amender, asked Shellshock to choose between a society where abortion is banned and slavery is illegal, where abortion is banned and slavery is legal, and one where slavery is banned and abortion is legal. Shellshock chose the society that banned abortion and had legal slavery. When first amender suggested Schwemmer was more reasonable on this point, Schwemmer corrected him. No, I agree with Shellshock. In the same debate, the host read out a viewer's question. Do you believe married women have the right to vote? What about single women? Schwemmer responded, I believe they currently have the right to vote, but I'm in favor of probably like a family voting thing. I think that would probably be a better way to do it. Family voting is a Christian nationalist proposal to restrict the franchise to male heads of households who would act as political representatives of their wives and children. I'm very much an anti-universal suffrage guy, Schwemmer added. I don't think there's a good defense for allowing people to vote who don't take the time to return shopping carts. I think that's a huge issue. Allowing those people the same leverage in your electoral system as a homeowner, that's crazy to me. In other words, okay, I'm removing this. Wow, but okay, really? Hold on. Really? Sometimes. Hey, Songs, how's it going? Sometimes this software I use is just crazy bad. StreamYard, I don't know what you did. Apparently I have to go full screen if I want to be able to see anything on the screen. This software, like, they keep updating it and making it worse. Is anybody seeing me flashing green right now? The software sucks, man. Anyway, okay, we're back to, okay, I'm seeing myself at normal. I know that made no sense to you just there. I'm sorry about that. Let's keep going. So, in any event, that's Kai Schwemmer. You guys remember Kai Schwemmer? Okay, we did a whole episode about called Kai Schwemmer Knows Nothing. I don't know if you can still find it. It definitely got a copyright strike, but I don't think it got called out in Germany or something, or in Eastern Europe. And it's that's right. Its visibility was restricted in some parts of Eastern Europe, I believe, because the song that they played to 88 Hitler, that song is a registered trademark song, and because I showed clips from that, this is why I don't show clips anymore. Is because I get called out for copyright strike even when it's obviously well within fair use. This is how I'm becoming gradually disenchanted with this platform. Not gradually, I'm becoming sharply disenchanted with this platform. In any event, one of the interesting developments that I have personally had in engaging with, and I am not a political activist, but I did happen to mention this episode about Martin Luther King Jr. that Kai Schwemmer did on his show, on Out of Touch. I happened to throw it out on Facebook to the personal page of a man named Scott Presler. And that's who we're going to talk about here. Scott Presler is the co-founder of Gays for Trump. He is a gay Republican from Virginia, apparently. I don't know if he grew up the whole time in Virginia, but he definitely attended college in Virginia, grew up most of his life in Virginia Beach area, Fairfax County, Virginia, which is the big county in Virginia, not the one where I'm moving to. So look out there, Virginians. Moving out to Virginia starting in May, possibly May or June. I'm going to be spending part of my time in Virginia and part of my time out here in Utah. But I'm very excited. But he grew up apparently in Virginia, and he's a bit of a character because here's the thing. Basically, he came out of the closet after the Pulse nightclub shooting, and he came out of the closet as gay. At the same time, he became very staunchly anti-Muslim. After that, he started working. He has a degree, apparently. Not apparently, he does. As far as I can tell, I have no reason to doubt it. it sounds like I'm suspicious. I'm not. I believe it by the reporting of it, that he actually has a criminal justice degree, and that's the extent of his training. I believe he may have some other vocational or organizational training in vote harvesting, but basically he works as a vote harvester for the Republican Party, for the GOP, especially under the MAGA wing. Now, this has become, my heart kind of goes out to the guy. I'm going to tell you in a moment why this has to do with Kai Schwemmer. Here's the thing about Scott Presler. I don't like him, but my heart kind of goes out to him because he is this gay Republican who and whenever Republican women seem to find his account, they love him. They think he's great. He has this long, these long, luscious locks of shampoo commercial hair. He has hair like good down past his shoulders. He is well loved by a lot of Republican women. Republican men are another story, especially this Groyper group, who look at him and immediately identify that he is gay, or at least he is not straight, and leave him hate comments, very angry hate comments, very homophobic stuff, very sexist stuff on his social media. And his story, just kind of encapsulating it here for you real quick, is that he got bullied when he was young for being gay, even though he was closeted. He got bullied so much that his whole life kind of became the reason why he went into criminal justice, was that he wanted to use the hate of others to fuel something positive in the world. In such, I look at that and I say, it sucks that should even have to be a thing. That being said, what a great attitude, right? Then he goes out and he starts using this story and his influence to he became very popular for a while there. He is very popular. His star is rising inside the GOP. But every time that he starts to rise, this homophobia from inside the GOP strikes him down. Republicans can make a lot of progress. Not that much. How long have log cabin Republicans been a thing? They still are not accepted within their own group. And there are politically conservative gay people, and there are politically conservative trans people, I'm sure. In fact, we know that there are. In fact, there are some that are groypers, apparently. And so it's like, the LGBTQIA plus, they are not a monolith, and they are not unofficial or semi-official representatives of the Democratic Party. Most of them are fairly liberal or progressive. A lot of them are, frankly, far left of the mainstream Democratic Party that I know, and we love them. And I personally love them. But let this guy be who he is. Let him express who he is. The problem is that he is definitely supporting a homophobic and anti-gay platform with anti-gay and anti-queer candidates and policies. And Kai Schwemmer is definitely one of the biggest voices coming up in the Mormon side, the hashtag LDSS. I'm going to make this a thing. The hashtag LDSS group. Yet here we have, if you don't know, Scott Presler apparently gained a lot. He gained a lot. How shall I say this? I wasn't going to show this, and I'm still not going to. I'm not going to show you the images. I'm setting that story aside. We'll do a whole thing about Scott Presler another time, because, as I said, he gets enough from inside his own party. He suffice it to say, he conjured up a lot of controversy in Virginia Beach, where he started working as an activist, basically doing ballot harvesting for the Republicans and for MAGA, for Donald Trump, particularly back in the 2016 campaign, and was one of the founders of Gays for Trump, has appeared alongside that I can find at least three people that he has photographed with who are dirty in the Epstein files and close to Trump, including Trump himself. And he it frequently gets mentioned because something like this is going to, that when he was in Virginia Beach in 2016, he had to resign from his position in working for the GOP, working for conservative activism in Virginia, in Fairfax County, after he had something like an orgy, not strictly an orgy, but a gay, an event, an underground event where several gay people from the community there, apparently in the South End or in Virginia itself, attended this party, and they took these pictures, and he posted them on Craigslist. And apparently, at least 2 people at some point at this party had sex in these GOP offices in Fairfax County, Virginia, which is an office that is shared with the state Republican the state GOP, the state Republican Party. And that was after those photos were circulated back around, were found and circulated around and then released to the press. And a statement had to be made to the press about the Virginia Republican songs. I hope you're paying attention to this. The Virginia Republican Party unwittingly playing host to what was, if not a gay orgy, at the very least, a gathering where this man, Scott Presler, allegedly hosted some friends, and they were quite dressed up. And to be honest with you, this is part of me. Again, I don't like this guy, but I did manage today to find these photos that have been taken down off of Craigslist, but by now they're circulating the internet. You can find them. And I have to say, Scott Presler, before I lean into you and put you and Kai Schwemmer and others into the Epstein Ballard matrix, I just want you to say, for those photos and for that little gay soiree that you had at the Virginia GOP offices, slay queen. Like, from the bottom of my leftist heart, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Stand up, represent. Then also on behalf of The Advocate and several other pro-LGBTQIA plus trans and queer community publications, dude, clean up your fucking act. It's curious. I will say this before I go into this. You guys know that I do this. I go off on a rabbit hole. One of the curious things about him, about Scott Presler, the guy I'm about to talk a lot about, is that if you watch his YouTube channel, which has even less followers than Hellfire Agency, are you subscribed? Are you? What are you doing? Just because I said I might give up on this platform doesn't mean you don't subscribe. You subscribe. That's how that works. You turn the little bell on. He actually shows some trainings. A lot of what Scott Presler does and how he is successful, and apparently was successful at bringing on especially the Amish community in Pennsylvania in the recent election to help throw Pennsylvania to Trump in the election by reaching out to the Amish community, was because he meets with people behind closed doors. He gets right in the thick of things with voters, belly to belly operations, and it's smart. A lot of Republicans are afraid to do this, but Scott Presler is a very personable person. He's a very kind-hearted person. It seems to me, he's very approachable and charming to people. I'm not trying to hit on him. Not my scene. Not saying. I'm just saying this guy, especially because I know so much about what he's doing and what he's operating for. But one of the trainings that I saw with him on his YouTube channel was that he said that a woman came up to him when he was out there trying to register people to vote and said to him that she can't vote. She can't get registered to vote. She can't take the time for it, can't get involved in politics because the government, meaning the Trump administration, whether she admits that or not, he doesn't say whether she mentioned this or not. But it's one of my things. You guys know that I've been talking for over a year now about how the Trump administration back in 2017 oversaw the cuts to SNAP that have now have a death toll of about as high as the initial blast of the atomic bomb dropped in Nagasaki. That's how many Americans have been killed with hunger. So by rolling back SNAP benefits, food stamps. And this woman came up to him and said she can't vote, she can't engage with anything with him or with anybody because her whole life has been thrown into chaos since her food stamps had been rolled back, since her access to her SNAP benefits had been scaled back. And he said this woman, he was able to get her favor. He doesn't say, to the best of my knowledge, whether or not she actually registered to vote or agreed to vote for Trump, which is his main objective, right? He says, all I did was to show her that we are good people. This is not a direct quote, but effectively, that we are good people looking out for you, because it was a Sunday and I was able to get her elected representatives on the phone there in the area. I want to say this is in Pennsylvania. And get them on the phone and get them through to call through on a Sunday to the right bureaucrat to make sure that week she got her food stamp benefits restored. Now, mind you, it didn't say get policy changed so that the state finances food stamps for everybody. It doesn't say so that people getting policy changed, which he has a lot of connections, political connections. Scott, you got a lot of people there who you could lean on to make that happen. To get the platform changed to the GOP, to get the party to start speaking out in favor of food stamps and SNAP and not murdering people with hunger. And that what I'm calling the MAGA massacre. And I'm calling it now. I'm just saying it directly. He could do something about that. No, he got that one woman's SNAP benefits restored. And he said, and whether or not she votes for Trump or whether or not she votes with us in the future, us being the Republicans and MAGA Republicans particularly, she'll always remember that I did that for her. And it's like little things like that I have to admit, if he's trying to say this is different from what ballot harvesting normally looks like for the GOP, I believe him. That definitely sounds more like a Democrat type of thing to do, with the exception that Democrats would probably be less interested in getting one person their SNAP benefits and more interested in highlighting, even if we could get you your individual SNAP benefits restored, all these other people are still going to be without it if the Republicans get their way. And that's why you have to get registered to vote and then press that person to get registered to vote. So it's interesting the things that Scott Presler engages in the interest of GOP activism, particularly MAGA activism, in that he doesn't really push for the Republicans very hard. He pushes for Trump. And he gets paid well for it. You'll remember this is the same guy that received $1 million through his organization, Early Vote Action. Got $1 million from Elon Musk, basically, and according to Musk himself, to flip Pennsylvania for Trump. And this is what the guy does. Now, he gets sent to different areas where the MAGA movement feels they have vulnerabilities and need to shore up some of these vulnerabilities. The most recent project of note is that he is in charge of a GOP-led effort here in the state of Utah to collect votes to reverse the ballot initiative that was voted in by Utah voters to correct gerrymandering by basically establishing an independent commission. The ballot initiative conformed to the Utah state constitution as ruled in a court ruling earlier this year. It was earlier this year, late last year. And it was determined that when the state legislature the Republicans in the state legislature, who obviously in Utah have a vast majority, can do effectively whatever they want. When they came in and decided to override that ballot initiative and start gerrymandering the districts here, the congressional districts, which were very badly gerrymandered before, when they did that, the court overruled the legislature because the court said, the legislature is fine, that's all fine and well, but they would have to amend the Constitution to give themselves the power to do this, which would be particularly anti-democratic, not against the Democrat Party, against democracy in general, because it was a ballot initiative. The voters of the state of Utah voted to put this anti-gerrymandering standard in place, and everybody benefited from it. The state can't just decide to overturn it. They have to either take it to a ballot initiative itself and get the Utah voters to withdraw it, and then in order to do that, they have to collect enough signatures on a word. They have to collect signatures. They have to get enough people to something. It's like something like 100,000 people or something. Well, they've done that. They put together this initiative to go out and collect signatures, basically to get Utah voters to vote against themselves by basically lying to them about this ballot initiative and telling them this ballot, the question, was it Prop 4, as it was, gave power to the courts to overrule the voice of the people. The exact opposite was the case. The voice of the people gave power to an independent commission to ensure that the voice of the people is protected from activists in Salt Lake City. Excuse me. So this guy, Scott Presler, has been traveling up and down the state of Utah, particularly northern Utah, collecting signatures and speaking at little rallies where he gets far right-wing MAGA people together. And it's quite the marvelous thing, actually, to observe that this gay Republican, who is very clear, very upfront with people that he is a gay Republican, in the state of Utah, where Republicans are not known for their progressive ideas, he gets up there and tells people, this is who I am, but you and I, we are MAGA, and we're on the same side. And then he gets people, local celebrities, to get up and speak on behalf of adding your signature to this initiative to try and overturn this ballot question, this ballot initiative, this anti-gerrymandering law. And one of the people he gets to get up there is Kai Schwemmer. When I saw that, I was content not to do anything, not to engage politically. I'm not a political activist. I felt morally compelled to contact this guy, Scott Presler, and send him an episode of Out of Touch by Kai Schwemmer, by Kai clips on YouTube, and said, you need to see this. I got as far as late that night or the night after, seeing a heart response from Scott Presler on that message I messaged him on Instant Messenger, and then went to open and say, oh my gosh, this guy actually mans his own Facebook account and actually responded to me, and only to discover that he had clicked off of it. He had clicked it off again. And I went, wow, really? Really, guy? Scott. Nobody's going to get pissed at you because an atheist talked to you, man. Yeah, well, they might, but not more pissed at you than they're going to be that you're gay. Yeah, I don't have to tell you this. You're fighting an internal fight. Frankly, sometimes you can even see it. Like, he posts videos sometimes where he seems positively down, like browbeaten with the hate he gets from inside his own party. And I mean, I'm just like sitting here like, guy, you're obviously on the wrong side. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't speak on behalf of parties. I don't believe in political parties. I don't endorse any candidates. I'm a spiritual leader for agnostics and atheists. I engage in secularism, but I believe in morality, and fighting against the right of homosexual people, the right of transgender people, the right of people who are non-binary, the right of people who are not straight, the LGBTQIA plus overall community, to speak out against those people having equal treatment in our society is not a political question. There are political ramifications. It's a moral question. It's about the fact that some people don't consider other people to be human beings, to fully be human beings. I am here to tell you, Mr. Presler, again, publicly, as I did privately, Kai Schwemmer is one of those people. And Mormonism is wrapped up in why he is one of those people. And that's I'm just calling it out straight here. And you will see. Watch his show. Watch Out of Touch if you have to. Believe you me, it will make you feel bad about the world. It will make you feel disgusted with the direction that things move in this country. And Kai Schwemmer he's an excellent voice to listen to if you want to become cynical about America. And he tells people these things, as we talked about in this Guardian article. Apparently, he in some of these episodes that you can only get by paying him $5 on Gumroad, he has actually said that gay men are trying to recruit other people into being gay and give them AIDS by what was the word they used in the Guardian article? Like flirting with them at the gym? Kai, first of all, Mr. Presler, pay attention, okay? Pay attention to who you're platforming. I understand that you have to platform some controversial people in order to get your work done. But now you have somebody here. I'm Joe. Hi. I'm here to tell you, I'm going to stick this to you, as I said in that conversation we had. Should I pull it up? No, I won't bother. I said, listen, I'm happy to take Kai Schwemmer's work and stick it to everything you do. I am happy to point it out to people and state it very plainly. This is the kind of people that are being platformed by Scott Presler in his work. And it includes anti-gay activists like Kai Schwemmer. And I said I would do it. Here I am keeping my promise. You're welcome. And Scott, yeah, get your life in order, man. This is ridiculous. I know you make money at this. I know everybody has to make money. I don't know what your situation is financially that has compelled you to do this, or if it is a moral question for you. But if it is, you should take a closer look at your hate mail and ask yourself, why am I working for why am I working for people who treat me this way? It's a valid question. I want to share with you guys some. So let's go over to Epstein, the Epstein Ballard matrix. Now, again, nobody is guilty by association. Our quest here is not to find out how many people, is not to associate Tim Ballard or other people associated with Tim Ballard to Jeffrey Epstein directly. Our point here is to ask, now that we have so much information from the Epstein files, and we're getting more and more information all the time about the people in the orbit of Tim Ballard, they are not as distant as you think. And there are a lot of people who are within 1 to 2 degrees of Tim Ballard that are within 1 to 2 degrees of separation from Jeffrey Epstein. And it's disturbing how many. I'm not saying that makes anybody guilty. This is the Epstein Ballard matrix. You can find it. Let me go ahead and put the address up on here. I hate this software. By going to korihor.org /Epstein-Ballard. You'll see that I have a few posts here flagged, and I just want to show you some interesting ones that are relevant to tonight's episode. One of them is Kai Schwemmer, who, Kai, you'll be happy to know, is out here with me. Hey, Exmo Joe. Some of you will remember a couple weeks ago, I announced that I too am in the Epstein Ballard matrix, as you'll see here in a very badly written. I haven't worked on I've been vibe coding the Korihor app, which I'm going to go over here a little bit in a second. A lot of you, I know you've been very patient about the Korihor app. It's very exciting. Unfortunately, I did run out of money. so I couldn't keep developing it, even though it is very inexpensive. I haven't been developing this Epstein Ballard technology, this map technology, since I started in the Korihor app, but I have been updating nodes when I can. Joe Rollins is connected to Brad Nelson, who is connected to Julie Rowe, who is connected to Tom Harrison, who is connected to Tim Ballard, 4 degrees to Tim Ballard. So I'll own that much. I am 4 degrees separated from Tim Ballard, and I have no desire to get closer unless Tim Ballard wants to talk to me. Tim, you want to talk to me? We'll talk personally. That's my commitment. If Tim Ballard ever wants to talk to me, I'll talk to him personally. Joe Rollins is connected to Brad Nelson, who is connected to Julie Rowe, who's connected to Tom Harrison, who's connected to Tim Ballard, who is connected to Donald Trump, a former associate of Jeffrey Epstein, 6 degrees to Jeffrey Epstein. So I am 6 degrees from Jeffrey Epstein. I'm probably closer, frankly, to what do you call him? Why is the name gone from my head? The 6 degrees. What's the 6 degrees guy? Kevin Bacon. I'm probably closer to Kevin Bacon than I am to Jeffrey Epstein. And that's probably true, actually. And who knows? Maybe I'll discover that I'm even closer. But Kai Schwemmer's out here, too. Kai Schwemmer is connected to Scott Presler, who is connected to Sound of Freedom Screening 2023 ActCon in West Palm Beach, Florida, who spoke alongside Speaker Tim Ballard, so 3 degrees to Tim Ballard. That shouldn't read that way. He was there. There's a lot wrong with how this software is dividing up the degrees of separation. He spoke alongside with Tim Ballard more than once, is my understanding. He is 1 degree from Tim Ballard. That is, Scott Presler is. So that puts Kai at 2 degrees. Kai Schwemmer is connected to Scott Presler, is connected to Elon Musk, who was named in the records of Jeffrey Epstein. So 3 degrees to Jeffrey Epstein. Welcome, Kai. Welcome to the Matrix. I'm on here too. Doesn't make you guilty. Here's Scott Presler. Okay, now here's the thing why I think that Scott Presler is an interesting story here. If you look at Scott Presler, if you look for photos of Scott Presler on Google image search, let's say, for example, it is a who's who of Epstein Island. The guy, he takes pictures with Donald Trump, Laura Trump. He has been photographed with a person he has spoken to and coordinated with, been interviewed by, which is Steve Bannon multiple times. He worked very closely with what do they call it? With Steve Bannon's organization there, Breitbart News. And nobody's in thicker with Jeffrey Epstein than Steve Bannon. Maybe Donald Trump, maybe Lawrence Krauss is pretty hot, but not. I mean, as far as the older associations, Steve Bannon is probably one older and more in depth and more active associations. Steve Bannon is up there, and Scott Presler and Bannon appear to be pretty tight. And so I've had Scott Presler on the Matrix for a while because he is extremely close, from what I can tell, to Ballard. At least he and Tim Ballard know each other and appeared to know each other and have appeared together, including at a Sound of Freedom screening, even though they were speaking on the political stage, on the rally stage. But it's a rally stage where they were talking about Sound of Freedom and where they were promoting Sound of Freedom when it was released in 2023. And so I'm sorry, Scott, but I'd love to tell you that you've got nothing to do with this guy, Tim Ballard, and you've got nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. You know in your heart that it's not true, that you're definitely directly connected. And these people, especially these LDSS groups, these LDSS political commentators, they need to be aware that you're being drawn into this association, because you are indeed working with the people who were pushing the Epstein Island agenda in Washington and still are. And now that is allegedly, okay? And I just want to say, not everybody is aware of everything everybody else does. As I said, you can be 2 degrees or even 1 degree from Jeffrey Epstein and not know what he was up to. I know people who are 1 degree from Tim Ballard. I know people who are 1 degree from Tim Ballard. That just occurred to me. I may be 2 degrees from Tim Ballard. Oh, why didn't I think of that? I am 2 degrees from Tim Ballard. There you go. Okay, could happen to anybody, and you can be within 2 degrees of Tim Ballard and be totally be innocent. You can be within 2 degrees. You can be within 1 degree of Jeffrey Epstein and be totally innocent, not be aware of anything he's doing. I think you'd have to be a pretty big idiot to be that close to Epstein and not know what he's involved in. But there are people who claim that they didn't know. They didn't know what he was up to. Hollywood people, etc. Again, seems hard to believe, but it is plausible. All I'm trying to do here is to illustrate, if you are talking about people who swim in each other's orbit and opportunities for people to engage in some of the most heinous activities, amoral activities, never mind illegal, amoral activities, you'd be surprised how close you are to it. You'd be surprised how people you support are, how close they are to it. And you'd be surprised how suspicious some of it is. Yeah. Hey, Bart, thank you. Yeah. So that is the theory, is that there are only 7 degrees of separation between you and everyone, right? Exactly. That's hence the game, the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. I narrowed it down to, never mind 7 degrees. Let's at least associate 6 degrees. Well, as you can see, just about anybody, even I, can be within 2 degrees of Tim Ballard. Be innocent. I had nothing to do with it. But be in the opportunity, be within the striking zone of opportunity to be involved in some of the most heinous things. Operation Underground Railroad, I am convinced, this is my personal opinion, is one of the most heinous things that to come out of the modern conservative Mormon movement that Tim Ballard is deeply connected in. And there are several associations. I want to talk a little bit about some of those with Scott Presler. And the reason why I decided, you know what, I'm gonna focus on this just for a minute. I want to show you something, another screen here. Let me go ahead and stop screen there. Share screen here. All over to Act for America. Do I want that one itself? Yeah, this is the only one I've left open. So here we go. Did I not? Did I close down that other screen? Damn it. I did, didn't I? All right. This is the Act for America page at the Southern Poverty Law Center. As I said before, Southern Poverty Law Center, if you don't know, this is a group, a law firm, I think, that covers and updates hate groups in America. And one of the groups that they covered is Act for America. It is considered anti-Muslim, was founded in 2007 in Washington, D.C. This is the article. Brigitte Tudor, better known as Brigitte Gabriel, founded Act for America in 2007 at a time when the anti-Muslim movement was beginning to take shape. If you don't know, I'll just briefly go over this. She is a Lebanese woman, Christian, not what most Christians in America would consider Christian, but she is Christian. I will defend that, just as I defend Mormons or Christians, who came out and who came out against Muslims and was basically part of Steve Bannon's, or not Steve Bannon. Sorry, that's incorrect. She's part of a broadcast network that broadcasts to the Middle East anti-Muslim rhetoric on behalf of Pat Robertson's. Stop that. Sorry. Some websites have annoying menus. Pat Robertson had this network. His TV network had this subsidiary network they worked with, and she apparently was a pundit on there with another name that she has. She changes her names as she works in different parts of this movement over the years. She says that Gabriel has said that any practicing Muslim cannot be a loyal citizen to the United States. In 2011 appearance on CNN, Gabriel said, America has been infiltrated on all levels by radicals who wish to harm America. They've infiltrated us at the CIA, at the FBI, at the Pentagon, at the State Department. They're being radicalized in radical mosques in our cities and communities within the United States. So basically, she started out her family, in her, I believe her book, her memoir, she talks, or her story, anyways, she talks about how her family were persecuted by Muslims in Lebanon and then during the war. And I don't have any reason to suspect that she is lying, other than there are apparently there have been some critiques of her story that have poked a few holes into saying that there's a lot about her story that seems to be just extremism and conjecture and doesn't appear to line up with reality. And so we don't know what we don't know. And, that isn't to say that there isn't, extremism in Islam. Of course there is. There's extremism everywhere, in every movement. And as much as she is against extremism, I couldn't fault her for that. But this woman who started this organization, Act for America, she is beyond against extremism. She is anti-Muslim. I do not like the Quran. I do not like Muhammad. I do not believe in faith, in God, in any gods, in Allah, certainly most of all. I do not support religious indoctrination of children. I do not support Sharia. Nonetheless, I have never in my life suggested to anyone that Muslims should not be considered valid Americans. I would not. I do not. I think that's an anti-American sentiment. Now, I think it's certainly within everyone's rights to have a difference of opinion. This opinion is an anti-American opinion, if you ask me. It's anti-egalitarian. And frankly, to suggest that Islam is any more radicalized against the West and or against democracy and freedom than Christianity, frankly, but that boggles my mind that people think that in a day and age when Christian fascism and cristofascism and Christian nationalism are so rampant in this country, with very anti-American sentiments and very anti-egalitarian sentiments, particularly the idea that all men are created equal, penned by a man from Virginia who owned 1,000 human beings as property. Yeah, nonetheless, wrote that all men are endowed with their creator with the same rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, better in theory than in practice in his personal life. But the idea should be, I think, regarded as one of the greatest and noblest ideas in the history of human civilization, to enshrine in ourselves the dignity of human beings as being all human beings and certainly entitled to equal treatment before the law, and that we should be considered equal in treatment regardless of race or creed or religion or belief or sex or sexual orientation or gender identity and expression. So I think that this is among the noblest ideas. Call me naive if you want, Kai Schwemmer. Call me naive if you want, Scott Presler. Call me naive if you want, Brigitte, Tudor, and or Gabriel. Call me naive. Fine. I'm naive then. But I believe it. I do believe it. I believe it is one of the more noble things that we can aspire to as human beings. Is it something we all as human beings agree on? No. It's not even something all Americans agree on. In fact, I am very much concerned with how few Americans believe it today. But that being said, this extremism, I'm going to go ahead and show this again. This extremism is far out there. Again, these are not my words. These are quotes from Act America. Quote, unless the West wakes up to the fact that their culture and way of life is eroding through immigration from the Islamic world, the values of the Islamic world will soon overtake us. Brigitte Gabriel in Rise in Defense of Judeo-Christian Values and Freedoms 2018. That's her book, I believe. A massive, quote, a massive wave of third world immigration has been engulfing America for half a century, yet all American citizens hear about from the lamestream media is what a racist, intolerant country we live in. If we don't openly accept millions of individuals who have no desire to embrace the language, culture, and values that made America the greatest country in the history of the world, we must be racist. That's Act for America 2018 press release for Brigitte Gabriel books. Brigitte Gabriel's book, Rise in Defense of, etc. Well, quote, Europe will no longer be Europe by 2050. It's curious how she just says things, okay? She just throws it out there, and the racist dog whistles are so strong. Like, what does that even mean? Europe will no longer be Europe by 2050. Lines on a map are lines on a map. If it says Europe, it's Europe. She's obviously meaning racially, Europe was not Europe, or culturally, Europe is not Europe. And that's just another way of saying that Europe is meant to be a white Christian, continent, which is absurd. It never has been that. And anybody who thought that it was that and needed it to be that are the people who are responsible for the most heinous acts in history, in my opinion. She says Europe has already become Eurabia. Europe is Eurabia right now. She said that on Breitbart News, September 26, 2015. So this is the person who employed Scott Presler at Act for America, founded in Florida in 2015, either 2015 or 2016. And this was basically where he was working when he ended up getting recommended to go and work for the MAGA movement while Trump was gathering up support in 2016 in his first run for president, and apparently was quite successful. And Scott Presler has been a part of the MAGA movement ever since. His organizations and he himself are responsible for millions and millions of dollars of political activist funding, moving into helping to move the MAGA cause forward. As such, I don't know him to have done anything illegal. I'm not saying he should be stopped. I'm not saying he shouldn't be allowed. All I'm saying is, while he's doing it, he's associating with Steve Bannon. He's associating with Donald Trump. He's associating with these conservative figures, including Tim Ballard, who spoke alongside with at a political rally that also doubled as a Sound of Freedom screening, where they had, when Sound of Freedom came out, where our good friend Eduardo Verástegui, that's tongue in cheek, he's no friend of mine, Eduardo Verástegui, one of the actors in the movie and also one of the financiers, the main financier for Sound of Freedom, or the guy who coordinated the financing of the film Sound of Freedom, was there promoting it on Breitbart News almost exclusively with Breitbart News. And just so happens with Scott Presler being there speaking in the same event, as it so happens Scott Presler is closely associated with Breitbart News and Steve Bannon. So I can show you pictures of them standing together. I don't know why I would lie about that, so I'm not even going to bother with it right now because we're waxing long. We're waxing into 2 hours here. And I want to get to something more fun and constructive. But suffice it to say, I wouldn't lie to you about that. And so, you know, all I want to elucidate here is to say there's so many associations cropping up here with Mormon extremism connected into this MAGA world through and funding major amounts of money moving through this sector, this political activism sector, directly connected to this one activist, Scott Presler. I'm not saying the man is guilty of a crime. As far as I can tell, he's not guilty of a crime. In fact, most of the things that I can see that he individually and personally does seem to be, morally speaking, of good repute. He, like I said, helped a woman get her SNAP benefits back. Yes, would I prefer that he was out there working to get SNAP benefits and food stamp benefits for all people who have been singled out and their access to food that's rotting on the shelves all around them in what is now becoming increasingly a food desert, a coast to coast food desert in a country that throws half of its food away. Since 2022, we have not had 1 year where the death toll of people who starved to death in this country has been under 20,000 people a year, whereas previously it had been less than 10,000 per year, when less than 9,000 per year, when the 2017 cuts came into effect. At the time, 2018, the first year that the SNAP benefit reductions went into effect, more Americans died of lack of access to calories and water than any year on record since Congress forced the Centers for Disease Control to begin tracking that information of what causes Americans to die in 1994. It was the year was the year more Americans died of malnutrition or lack of access to potable water. The number one record in history, 2018. And we found that out in 2020 because of COVID. We found that out because normally the CDC waits months, even a year or more, to publish that information. But they did it. They had to start accelerating that information because of the pandemic and because Congress got them extra funding at the CDC and told them, we want you to start releasing this information monthly or as often as possible on what the actual causes of death are, because obviously they were hoping this is like in March of 2020, they were hoping that they would be able to prevent further shutdowns or end shutdowns earlier as people would become immune to coronavirus. And so they got the CDC to start publishing the information on a more regular basis without taking the ordinary amount of time that they usually spend to vet on it. And that, I think, was a good thing. What I don't think they intended as a consequence was that they revealed that CDC started releasing information through their system that I was able to get access to because ChatGPT knows how to get into and knew how to guide me on which the secret code words to punch into the CDC's system so I could get access to all of that data. I gave last year, I gave a godless sermon on how I was able to track using this information, this tracking system from the CDC and instructions from ChatGPT, who knew how to navigate that website because I didn't. They make it, I think, purposefully obtuse and difficult to get to this information, but it's all there. It's all public. It's all public information. And I was able to show, tracking from there, that the number of people who have died from malnutrition or lack of access to potable water has increased from 2017 till now, to where from 2018 to 2022, this has been reported by I was the first on this. Watchdog groups have pointed this out back during the pandemic, that not during the pandemic, in 2023, I think it was, they came out with the first report came out that said the number of people in this country who die from lack of access to calories or water more than doubled from 2018 to 2022. Went from 9,000 people, over 9,000 people in 2018, to more than 22,000 people in 2022, and it's been going up since. As I understand it, there are some numbers, I haven't looked it up yet this year, in the last month, other than to do a quick Google search. Apparently last year it was something like 20,000 people. Now, why I say apparently 20,000 people in 2025. In 2025, I gave a godless sermon where I talked about this very subject, where I revealed that information, where I talked about that information and showed chart that I made on an Excel spreadsheet using the CDC's data, showing this trend. And so at this rate, this is going to become one of the biggest slaughters in the history of the United States from the government slaughtering its own people. It's an extermination. And it is disproportionately affecting people of Black and Indigenous people of color and senior citizens. Obviously it is. If you were going to do this, if you were going to exterminate Americans and you wanted to extend tax cuts coast to coast, who would you get rid of? People you're going to have to pay senior retirement benefits to. Why make Social Security solvent in its cash flow if you don't have to? The only way that you end up running out of cash, even though as Bill Clinton loves to say, Social Security is not insolvent. It has a cash flow problem because we paid for the Iraq and Afghanistan wars on a credit card. You hear people say that. We paid for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan on a credit card. That credit card was our Social Security benefits, which are their treasury notes. Well, the treasury notes aren't insolvent until the U.S. government is insolvent. Well, guess what? U.S. Treasury Department just came out and announced the U.S. just this last couple of weeks, I think it was last week, that the Treasury is insolvent. They have to eliminate people who can claim benefits, so they're starving them. That's a theory. I think one that most people who are watchdogs in this category are agreed about. So it's frustrating. Scott Presler, you talk about going out there fighting for Trump and fighting against Islam and fighting against Muslim extremism, even though it's pretty clear the people you associate with are not just against Muslim extremism, they're against Muslims. And to say that people, Democrats come out against you or that liberals come out against you, drop it, man. Forget all that. These are human beings. We're talking about human beings being starved. We're talking about human beings having bombs dropped on them. If you can grow a heart, Scott Presler, when you see this, if you see this, I wish that you would grow a heart big enough to understand that Muslim children are not worse than Christian children, to understand that Muslim people, civilians in Iran or in Iraq or in Gaza are not worse human beings than white children who grew up in Virginia. Okay? If you agree with that, I would encourage you to stop and take a look at what you are doing with your goddamn life and figure out whether or not you want to grow up to be a moral person. And I these are hard words, but there are people dying. And consider to yourself and ask yourself, can it truly be that you can support a racist, homophobic, bigoted administration and come out of it not a racist, homophobic bigot who happens to be gay? Because you would not be the first and you will not be the last. I'm not telling you how to vote. I don't tell anyone how to vote. Frankly, half the time, I don't tell people how I vote. Vote how you want. Do what you want. But ask yourself, what are you voting for? What are you supporting here? And that goes for Democrats as well as it does for Republicans. It goes for liberals as much as it does. It goes especially to liberals, who I'm just going to say gently in your hearts. We have a problem among the liberal and or progressive movement in this country of people who think I voted for insert Democrat's name, so I did my part. There comes a time where the political parties are so well entrenched in the status quo that to vote for a party or a candidate will not be enough. To do something, we have to act. We have to change something. And to that end, I want to end tonight's broadcast with something positive, and that is to show you one of my favorite projects. I know I have been talking about this and not showing a lot of results in terms of getting people onto the app. I just wanted to refresh your memories a little bit about this. The Church of Korihor is a church from here in Utah. Peter Thiel happens to be gay. Yeah, be careful with that, people. Yeah, be careful with that. But yes, Andy's in the Epstein Ballard matrix. Thank you, Bart. Our whole lives, speaking of that, I don't know how many of you saw this, but just last week, Facebook was found liable of endangering children with their platform in New Mexico. And Twitter is facing the same problems all over the country, all over the world. In Europe, the governments are raiding, well, at least in France, and I think other places, they're raiding the offices of X.com, saying that they are not doing enough to protect the privacy of users, and they're not doing enough to protect especially vulnerable populations. And I happen to have I've made a big deal about this in the past, so it's going to be a little repetitive before we get into the actual app. I actually asked Grok, you can on X. Don't follow me on X. I sometimes post X gets to me. Just like the rest of us, X makes me a hateful person. And I hate being that hateful person that I am when I'm on Twitter. It does it to everybody. And I have been just sick to death of seeing the kind of person that I shape into when I'm on these social media apps. Facebook's probably my worst. And a lot of that I have noticed while focusing more on my spiritual development. I asked myself, what is it about these platforms that we spend so much of our time on that makes us into such bad people, or makes us, if it doesn't make us angry and hateful like Twitter, it makes us depressed like Facebook and Instagram. And one of the things I feel is the harm that is done to children. And the fact that we know that if our kids are on social media, and let's face it, even if you forbid it, your kids are on social media, that these kids are being exposed to what we're being exposed to. And it's largely corporate advertising, over-sexualization, body issues, and body image issues, especially for young women and girls. And it's exposing them to bullying. And there's so much wrong with the way that social media is done. I happen to on X, you can at Grok. You can call up Grok, which is an AI bot created by Elon Musk, XAI, Twitter, resources, etc. And asked him, what does Twitter do, or X, do to protect children on its platform? And its response was, just breaking it down for you, we don't allow children to have accounts on this platform. You have to be at least 13. Never mind the fact that Grok and apparently Twitter and apparently Elon Musk, who is in the Epstein files, scientific fact, don't think that a 13-year-old is a child. The only reason why they verify that you have to be 13 to be on their platform is because the law assigns fines and punishments, legal repercussions in this country, if children under 13 are being communicated with by adults on your platform who are using them for purposes of grooming them. Then all of that, for that reason, these corporations, these mega corporations that make billions and billions and billions of dollars a year for their shareholders and for their executives, shareholders, these companies, they don't want to end up paying these fines because they know this abuse is happening on their platform. So they need plausible deniability. They need to show that they are doing something, and to prevent the abuse of vulnerable populations, and especially children. And so Grok said, well, we ask them when they sign up for an account, what their date of birth was. And if that date of birth is within the last 13 years, we don't allow them to open an account. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? And apparently it's kept them legal all this time. That's it. They put a date in there and says, this is your date of birth. You promise this is your date of birth. And if that's within the last 13 years, they don't let you set up an account. And if the person lies, and it's like, and it's basically gave me this drawn out response that basically amounted to, what are you getting on about? Why are you looking into us? We didn't do anything. And it's just like, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like, it's ridiculous how these corporations are targeting our children. And they're all of them dirty in the Epstein network. All of them. Zuckerberg is dirty in the Epstein network, even if he isn't, even if he didn't engage in any direct criminal activity. You have these same guys. Jeffrey Epstein was just bringing us to an awareness of how cross-party, how bipartisan, nonpartisan, how closely linked celebrity and billionaire status is to frequent, regular abuse of children. And these are the people, these are the Peter Thiels, these are the Elon Musks, these are the Mark Zuckerbergs, these are the Bill Gates, these are the Bill Clintons, these are the Donald Trumps, these are the Alan Dershowitzes who are controlling this whole system. And so many of these people are in this legal network that is shielding social media to keep these companies making billions, tens of billions, even hundreds of billions of dollars per year in advertising, allowing corporations to advertise to us and to our children. And it makes me sick. Every time I get on Facebook, which I unfortunately do, I said on April 1st I was going to stop. I have largely stopped. Occasionally I get on there to post because I didn't get as much done on the Korihor app as I'd like, which is where we're going to switch to so that I can start smiling again during this broadcast. I said about a year ago, when it was clear that TikTok, which was my favorite social network for a while there, that TikTok had been was forced into being sold to Oracle, one of, in my opinions, the skeeziest Mormon companies in the world. But in any event, and I looked around and I said, that's it. We need a non-profit social media network. The thing about social networks and social media apps is that they have shown us that community is effective. The Arab Spring never would have happened, I think, without the advent of social media. Social media has brought the world, has made it smaller, has made it more accessible to people to make friends from outside of their communities, find work outside of their communities, relocate to a new area, find, for small-time creators to start a job, to start working without needing to go and get a corporate job, which for a lot of autistic people, for whom I am very concerned about the future, especially in a day and age where Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is talking about starting a national database of autistic people like me and my children. I worry about neurodivergent people who struggle mightily with being able to go into an office, which all these corporations, even though the pandemic showed us, they don't need us to come in. They don't need us to show up to the office to be effective. In fact, during the pandemic, they were able to show that, in fact, productivity went up with people working from home. But the billionaires have made it clear that wasn't the point. The point was for us to suffer because they feel less like they are suffering if they pay other people to suffer. And that was the real reason why everybody had to go back into work, and they're still fighting this. And I'm looking at this and going, meanwhile, they're taking our data from social media apps, from search engines. They're taking that data and they're selling it to each other. They're taking opportunities to advertise to us and fill our heads with, your life isn't enough because you don't vacation in Ibiza. You don't have a girlfriend with 0% body fat, a boyfriend with 0% body fat, that you go and take, boating, yachting trips in the Aegean and hope that, you don't get run into by orca. See, I'm smiling already. You don't get run into by orca off the Rock of Gibraltar. See, I feel better already. I'm sitting here looking at this. I'm like, we need our own vibe coded social media app. Now that I don't trust AI implicitly. I published a statement on the Church of Korihor's Facebook page just day before yesterday on this subject from my phone. Wish I had written it with AI, because I had to go back and edit it several times, about how the Church of Korihor uses AI. Church of Korihor uses AI so that we can save money, because we don't have a lot. We don't ask our members, we are a real church. We don't ask our members to pay 10% of their income or any other percentage of their income by percentage. We ask our fellows who are members of the Church of Korihor to contribute $48 a year. And we ask some friends who have the means to give $48 a month. As I have said before, if $48 a month is 10% of your income, please let me know and I will give it back to you, because I ask people if it is within your means. If it is not within your means, you are welcome to participate for free in everything the Church of Korihor does. We love you. We want you to be here. We want to help you in your spiritual growth, especially if you are atheist and agnostic. But even if you are not, even if you are a God believer, we want you to be here. If you are in faith transition, we want you to be here. We want you to participate in our activities and help us to develop better sacraments, better ceremonies, better spiritual activities, spiritual practices, and to help us become better people and make lives worth living. That makes me happy. And I started this organization, the Church of Korihor, in 2024, in December 2024, with the objective of making lives worth living. And our atheist/agnostic community of people who are spiritual nuns, spiritually homeless from all these other groups, I have encouraged them all. You need to get out there, get involved in the community, help us to help other people. And I said at the beginning, we will fail, and we will fail forward, and we will fail better and fail better and fail better until eventually our failures are so much like success, people won't call it anything else. And that's what we're doing. This idea that I had was not a prophecy, it's not inspired. It was a simple reaction to the fact that social media makes us miserable. And I said, we need an app that anybody can use, that you don't have to download to your device through one of these managed app markets, that you can log into from any web browser and that works on any device, and that you will never see an ad for a corporation on that or in that app ever, save it be the nonprofit corporation that runs it. The Church of Korihor presented me with an opportunity to make that dream a reality. I'd like to share with you the beautiful thing that is the app I've been developing. I've been putting out a lot of fires and a lot of bugs. Last week, my main employer, who are good people, it's a hard economic time. They stopped paying me. So they're going to get caught up if they can. They're trying their best. It's actually supposed to happen anytime today. I am not unemployed. I am not complaining to you. I'm just saying all development on the app had to kind of screech to a halt. I had promised to, help other people, to send out invitations to the Korihor app to people. And unfortunately, I'm very embarrassed to say I kind of fell on my face on that because I didn't have the resources to finish a few of the bugs. But I wanted to share with you how far we've gotten. So far, I have managed to scrape together enough to fix at least most of the major bugs. I am at last, I think, ready to start sending out some invitations to what is probably a very buggy onboarding system to get into the Korihor app. I don't think Blue Sky is for profit, but I don't. Oh no, I think Blue Sky is for profit, Hazel. By the way, I don't know. I don't know that for sure, but I believe it is. It might not be, but I mean, I'm not on Blue Sky. Somebody tell me, is that any good? I don't care. Well, I mean, I do care. I do care. Oh, why is this thing? I hate this. I hate this app. I hate StreamYard. Maybe I started vibe coding so I could get rid of StreamYard. So this is the app. This is what it looks like more or less on the phone. This is on a web browser, mocking it up like it's on the phone. And I just wanted to show you some things we're kind of poking around. And as many of you know, because you've seen it before, the way that you get around on the app is you click on the Korihor sigil, which is this corner up in the corner, this symbol up in the corner, and there are three main screens that you can switch between. They are you, serve, and play. Making some progress on play. Soon we're going to have episodes of Hellfire Agency that people will be able to access on here. As soon as I get some of those episodes, including some of our older episodes, posted up on play, I'm going to start taking them down off of YouTube and other places. Soon, I'm hoping by the end of the year, Hellfire Agency will be something that you can watch some clips and some videos on YouTube, but mainly people will log in to the Korihor app to go into see it. Serve is still under development, but at least now the missions work. Basically, missions are congregations of the Church of Korihor, though you don't have to go to any of the worship-based ones. They each have their own community. Right now, me and a bunch of fake content are the only ones on here. Marcus is another one. Is one of these people. It doesn't really exist. It's just to show what it looks like. It's called dummy content. I'm going to start abating those. I was supposed to do that as of yesterday. Like I said, right now, until I get paid again, or until I start getting donations from people, I kind of have to scale back on things like this. But in any event, I want you to kind of envision this here, right? Mutual aid network, right? One day, the ads that you will see here are not ads for corporations like, that have paid for advertising space. You will see ads in here for people who are trying to feed their family, trying to put dinner on the table, from women who are trying to get out of an abusive relationship, or men who are persons who are trying to get out of a bad relationship. Hazel, yes, it is very much like old school Twitter. In fact, I don't know how well you guys can see this. Can you guys hear me at all? Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm not just talking to myself here. You guys hear me okay there? I don't know if did I zone out there? Anyways, it is kind of like Twitter. Basically, the U feed is kind of like a Twitter. You'll see that there's a trending now with different hashtags. This will be mainly how people you'll find friends and communicate with people and post inside the community. You'll see these what are called caring posts. Normal posts come up like this side by side in your U feed. So like that come up side by side like this. Of course, I'm mainly the only person in here. So you see a lot of posts from me, right? Nobody's going to get on your ass about putting the word Nazi or saying the word death or something like that. That's not how we manage content at the Korihor app. And unless we legally are absolutely required to, we're never going to do that. You have these, however, these edge-to-edge ads that you see here. This one says, "Do you overview?" It's something that you can click on, and then it takes you to an experience. There's different kinds of caring posts. Usually, they're going to be geared towards helping somebody who's in need, like can you send a blanket to help us in our mission to the unsheltered? Or can you help so and so out with $1 or $5 so that they can, we're trying to raise this fundraising goal. I'll show you what that looks like because I have one of those that actually is working now. Okay, this is the new innovation that I released last week. So you see here, this is a caring post, for example, for the Church of Korihor. Obviously, we're not getting advertising revenue. We don't have a big corporation behind us. The corporation that we are is a religious nonprofit corporation in the state of Utah. I have to check our bank account. I think might be empty at this point. So we rely on donations from people. We don't require anybody to give donations unless you're going to become a fellow of the Church of Korihor, in which case we do ask you to give $48 per year. And then if you have the means to give $48 a month or whatever you can. And I tell people all the time, beyond those commitments, that annual or monthly commitment of $48, if you have more money to give it to someone in need. Don't give it to us. Don't give it to us. Don't give it to me. Give it to the people who are in need. The Korihor app is going to be a way for us to have fun, do the things that we normally do on social media, but also have opportunities on a daily basis where you can do just exactly that. The Church of Korihor will be one such organization. It now has a video component that allows us to serve up videos from my personal Vimeo account. Eventually, I'll get it connected to the church's Vimeo account when we have one. And it comes up and it shows this is what a fundraiser will look like. This is what I wanted to show you. And I want to show you that it actually works because I gave $5 to this $500 goal. And I said, this is the first fundraiser that we'll raise for developing the app. Is users on the app will see that they can learn about the Church of Korihor. At this point, in the future, we'll have better videos for this, like the going home, short or something like that. I have a version of Going Home I've been working on for forever, and it looks pretty cool so far. But anyways, you'll learn about the Church of Korihor because a lot of people who will get involved with the Korihor app aren't going to know what the Church of Korihor is, and I love that. You'll learn about the Church of Korihor and the fact that we have created this app for you, and you can then click donate. It comes up and asks you, would you like to give $5, $10, $25, $50, or a different amount? And you actually put in the amount that you want to give. You click donate. I was able to launch that yesterday. It took an inordinate amount of time, but it actually does work, and we can now collect donations. So in the future, we'll have these caring posts where we have, for example, a drive to raise $2,000 to help Mary get a deposit down on her new apartment. That may be a year or two down the road before we have enough people using it that could be something we actually do. Or SUMAC, Southern Utah Mutual Aid Coalition, is currently I'm actually going to talk to them about launching a caring ad in this initial version of Korihor app. This is a small organization. I doubt anybody in this organization is even getting paid right now. I don't know that for a fact, but they're a small mutual aid group that is going around collecting, especially dried foodstuffs to distribute to immigrants here in Southern Utah who are afraid to go to work and afraid to, go out in this climate, shall we say. Let's just say it that way. There are a lot of immigrant families in Southern Utah who are terrified just to function, just to live in this country. They can't go to the grocery store. A lot of them, they're without work, and they're scared for their lives. And so Southern Utah Mutual Aid Mutual Aid Coalition has partnered with local leaders in the immigrant community here to get food that is then distributed to those people so that they can survive through the intense climate that we're living through right now. Imagine that was the only kind of ad you saw. Imagine the spiritual development of atheists, agnostics, but believers too, of people sitting here every day seeing an opportunity, at least an opportunity every few minutes or every few hours, in every couple of hours, in which you can make a difference in someone's life with $1, $2, $5, or even just repost this. Or you buy trash bags anyway. Why not buy our organic trash bags? We make at our commune in Wyoming or whatever. I mean, the sky's the limit. And all of these ads, no one will ever pay for these ads. These caring posts will be selected by clergy of the Church of Korihor, of which we are a small handful of people. I am a herald. I'm currently the only herald of the Church of Korihor. And then we have ordinary volunteers, people who are ordained in the Church of Korihor, and we need some more, who are called luminaries of reason. And our luminaries of reason, they're going to be luminaries of reason with a variety of different roles in the Church of Korihor in the future. But one that I really want to try and find as many people as possible is people who dedicate some 10, 20 hours a week as they can to just serving the community, the unsheltered, serving single moms, serving people who are suffering with mental illness, serving people in indigenous communities, people on reservations, or people off of the reservation. Forget the expression. People, whatever it is, in indigenous peoples, serving seniors. I envision that one day in the hopefully not distant future, we will have food buying clubs on the Korihor app, and you'll see this when you are navigating through the app. You'll see caring posts like this that say, "Hey, are you paying too much for groceries?" And it's not an ad for a store. It's not an ad for a corporation. It's not an ad for Amazon. It's an opportunity to say, join our food buying club, the Appalachian food buyers club, and we are we're a bunch of neighbors in Kentucky, Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, who are getting together to place bulk orders directly from the farmers, because there are whole communities. I don't know if you've seen this. There are whole groups that are doing this now and saving sometimes as much as 15% on, or no, I think the mean is somewhere around 18% on their groceries. That may not seem like a lot at the start, but as you can see, as fuel prices go up, as the price of energy increases, as people start to get replaced with automation in the agricultural world, you're going to see that these prices, inflation. We are beginning right now to see the opening markers to hyperinflation. And I would love to see that there is one social media app where we have fun, we do cool things, and we serve each other with these missions. And so that's what the Korihor app is all about. Some of the innovations that are now working, you guys can see this. Okay, let me make sure. Okay, yeah. Is this beta test hub? If you're one of the early adopters who goes to korihor.app, let me go ahead and make sure and pull this up here. You can request. I haven't tested this feature, so forgive me if it doesn't work. Apparently, you can now go to korihor.app and request to become an early adopter. In fact, after we're done here, I'm going to make sure that's actually working, and ask the AI how I can actually access that and start extending invitations to people. We have a small handful of people who've requested that I'm going to be sending out invitations to first. But over the next few weeks, my hope is to get more and more people onto the app, and get people kind of testing it. You will become a beta tester. You'll get invited to become a beta tester. which means that I have selected you because you have promised to be constructive in your feedback, understand that we're kicking the tires, that there's some things that are broken, and we're trying to fix them as we go. It's not expensive compared to normal software development, but it is a little expensive for a little tiny church for atheists. So, be patient with us. And of course, if you are able to help out by donating from time to time, we'll certainly take donations. If you do want to do this even before you are on the app, you can always go to korihor.org and click on the donate button, or korihor.org/donate, and you can donate there. The beta test hub is a place where you'll be able to go through some of my ideas. These are real ideas on how we can. Oh wait, a few of these are not real. I'll have to go in and look at that. Here is an idea on a TikTok style short video post type, where I would love for this app to basically be a fusion of everything that once was great about Twitter with everything that was great about Facebook groups before they got really crappy, and everything about TikTok and or Instagram. And I would love for this to be mainly a video app in the future. Now, I figured out how we can do that in a scalable way using a server company based out of Eastern Europe. I would love to say that we can just develop our own resources and our own, green energy, carbon neutral. I'd love to do all of that. Unfortunately, that's years away, unless we get a sudden infusion of cash, and I'm not sure that I want us to. But I figured out how we can use this company to allow us to make certain users able to post TikTok videos and make it so that people can watch TikTok style videos, or not TikTok videos, but TikTok style shorts. And we can develop some cool technologies. I'm already kind of exploring how we can kind of innovate the TikTok style of video platform. That's down the road. So right now we're working on kind of the Twitter style interface. But I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be really cool. So here's where people will be able to upvote or downvote ideas that they like, and create more ideas, and to report bugs. One of the things that you can do here is to select between features and bugs, so that if you come across a bug, which is something not working on the app, you can report it as a bug. One of the things that I introduced just this last week to streamline that process is using the post button here. This is the little plus sign here. You click on that. Instead of clicking, normally when you post something, you're going to post it to your profile. You can, however, post it to missions that you are a part of. In my case, I'm a part of all of them. Or you can come on here to report a bug, or down here to app idea. You fill out the idea, if it's an idea on how to improve the app, on a feature for the app, or report a bug if you found something that doesn't work or doesn't work well. You can describe it there, and then you hit submit, and it takes it directly into that hub. I am hoping that within the next few weeks, I'm going to spend most of my time in the hub, either improving on people's ideas and commenting on them, and working out what if it was something like this, and implementing some of these ideas as people come up with them, as beta testers come up with them, and we start to engage with them. So I think this is kind of exciting. I mean, we'll see if we'll see if people like it. But my hope is that we are going to develop a really cool community here. One of the things I've talked about before that I've been doing a little bit of thinking about, I'd like to get you guys tap your brains on this, and also in the future come up with some ideas about this. And I'd love to, in fact, let me tell you one right now before I go on to that, and then we'll wrap up here, because it's been over 2 hours now. and I ran out of water. I'm thinking about incorporating a kind of live audio feed feature where we can, instead of, in addition to doing regular broadcasts of Hellfire Agency, just kind of hang out in an audio fashion, kind of like a Teams meeting or a Zoom call, where I will sometimes just hop on and say, we're talking about the app. If you're on here, we're coming up with some ideas, and I'll just kind of talk while I'm doing other things, and we'll have a live kind of conversation always going on, or going on frequently, that will allow people to get on the app, and the audio that you're listening to while you're on the app will either be music, background music that you select, whether it's the Church of Korihor's Godless Hymns, or some ambiental soundtracks that we can put on there, or select podcasts from small creators who have been pointed out, or approved by the clergy, because their mission of their podcast aligns with the mission of the Church of Korihor and to the spiritual development of people in our network. I can imagine one day maybe having like Natasha Helfer's podcast playing on there, where she can talk about psychology and sex and gender and relationships, family relationships, and things like this. And people will be able to listen to podcasts or music or live broadcasts. Even one day, you'll be able to go onto the Korihor app and browse around while a godless sermon is going on, and be able to listen to godless sermons in there. But also to support small creators, and hopefully, so it becomes almost like a little Spotify too. I don't want to do too much too soon, but I am thinking about accelerating that idea, because I think it would be fun. I think it would be exciting if people who are the first beta testers, were able to turn on that audio feed when we are live, and be able to engage in conversation live, where you listen to other people going on, make comments, and just like we do here, but without the whole YouTube apparatus. It'll just be contained within our own network. I've thrown some ideas out at the AI system that I use for vibe coding the app, and so far it looks extremely plausible that we can actually do this. And so I'm really excited about that. And then that way I can kind of gauge live, as I'm working on the app and vibe coding with the app, what is high priority for people who are using it regularly, and also what's making it fun for you, what you think would make it more fun. Like I could see a day in the near future, possibly, where instead of like Instagram filters, you had like almost like a Canva style mobile device photo editing software that you can do fun memes with, or something like this, right? Another thing that I've talked about in the past is an idea I came up with a while ago called a sitcom, where normally, like on TikTok, you can do a stitch, or where you just take a piece of somebody's video and tack you on to the end of it, your video on the end of it. Or you can do a duet, which is where you just sit there and listen to another person talking. I said, I was very much inspired by, do you remember back in the day, for the anniversary of Princess Bride, people did whole scenes from the Princess Bride, and people would record themselves at home. I think it was during the pandemic, actually, and people would record themselves interacting with each other, and then they would edit it together into whole scenes. And I thought, that right there, somebody who knows how to edit video like me coordinates something like that to make that possible, because the technology inside the video-based applications, including YouTube, doesn't exist. And that would be the tool that would really set the next TikTok apart as the coolest thing. Is let's just do we could do whole productions of Shakespeare plays, for example, or Tennessee Williams plays, or we could do reenactments, select reenactments without calling out too much attention from Hollywood movies, Star Wars or something, right? Where fans can make their own versions of things, and where actors can showcase their talents, and where people can just hang out with their friends and have fun. Another one that I've talked about before is that there's a play feature. Let me go ahead and pull up the app again. Again, you can swipe through here. I'm going to come back to this one. In fact, I may not even talk about the Sage feature. If you swipe in gentle swipes in the middle of your screen, so not from the edge of the screen, because that can take you off of the site. We'll see if we figure out a fix for that. But you can swipe here to switch rooms. You can also get to this room by just clicking on the sigil and going down to play. So those are different things that you can do. You'll see that there's a feature here that says tables. I don't know what we're going to call this in the long run. Probably we'll just call it tables in the long run. But basically, you'll be able to start or join a game table. And people in our community, I'm hoping, who are excited about the prospect of this, will be able to come up with different card games, board games, Cards Against Humanity style games, or Apples versus Apples style games, games like Clue or Monopoly, whatever it is. It's an opportunity to get together while you're doing other things anyways, and you're out and about, you're at your lunch break, you're hanging out at home on a weekend and there's nothing good on Netflix, whatever. And you can just get into a table and play a game with people in the community, make some friends, hang out with your existing friends. And my hope is also kind of incorporate it into a video feed that then other people, if they don't want to engage in playing the game, but they want to participate in the fun, can kind of watch it like a live stream, like you're doing now. And that this will kind of be a room where people get together to meet up, have fun, play games, and all in a completely ad-free environment. Who knows? Maybe this is way too big, and I just am just nothing if not a dreamer. But when I sit here and work on reporting on and talking about how so many things in our world are going to shit, I get depressed. It's part of the reason why I stopped doing so much Ted Bundy content, stopped doing so much Tim Ballard content, is because I got depressed. It brought me down. Just talking smack about people is the same reason why you don't see me doing expressly anti-Mormon content. I have a lot of friends in the anti-Mormon, ex-Mormon content space who I talk to on a regular basis. And with names, by the way, that you in the ex-Mormon world would know, who frankly are sick of it. It's so, even though I don't think that we're doing a bad thing when we make criticism of religion, it can take over your life in a way that makes you feel discouraged and disheartened and depressed. And there's enough things in life to make you feel depressed, and social media is one of them. And so I thought, you know what we need? We need more opportunities to get together in community without having to move physically or get to the same physical location, geographic location. Get together, have fun, and build our community rather than just tearing down someone else's, and or pointing out what's wrong in somebody else's. I'm not saying those are wrong things to do, morally wrong things to do. I'm just saying, let's start building something new. Let's create something new. And I feel like the Korihor app is a good way to go. I think if it fails, I think it will fail in part because I don't know what it will be. I don't know what it will become. And somebody out there has some ideas on how we can make something really brilliant that my brain would never come up with. And I'm excited about the possibility that that will happen. I'm excited about creating a community where we select people who feel like I could be one of those people. I could be somebody who, if I come up with a good idea, great. If not, maybe I can help to improve some other ideas. And let's put this thing together, put some heads together, and try out a few things. And feel free to, set up something and say, this would seem like a clever idea, but let's kill it, let's cancel it, and let's start something new and try something else. Maybe there's something out there that could really change the world. And I am excited that the Church of Korihor could do it. And I'm glad that there are people who want to. I appreciate those of you who have been patient about invitations. I've been trying it out. Oh, and I wanted to show you some of the a couple other features. This is a little bit opening the kimono because I'm going to show you some admin features. I want to show you, for example, this right here. So this is a screen called Clergy Tools. Clergy Tools shows us how many, this is not real data. This is just placeholder data. It tells you how many members there are on the app versus on the fellows in the church, and so on and so forth. Again, this is not real data. And then pipelines. Pipelines will be fellowship pipelines will be people who are in the process of converting to the Church of Korihor, or who are pursuing ordination as luminaries and or heralds. And we'll be developing that one for a while. But I'm excited about that. There are all these different services that I've come up with for how we can manage all of the spiritual development items in how the app works, and generally for the Church of Korihor. One of these that I wanted to show you is verifiers. Okay, so right now there is one verifier, and it's me, Joe Rollins here. Okay, I can promote any other person to a verifier. I select a person's name. Right now, there's nobody else in here but me. But if you were in here, I could select your name. I'd start typing your name, and it would come up, and it would tell me that person's name. Then I would put in your full legal name, and then your ID. And this is a system meant specifically to prefer opening the app on the camera app on your phone. On your phone, it should open up your camera app directly rather than looking through your files on your computer, on your device, though I think it will allow you to do both. But I'm pretty sure that it prefers that you use your camera app. And what you'll do is you'll take a picture, take a photo of the front of your government issued ID, and take a picture of the back of your photo ID, and take a selfie of you holding your ID up so we know that it's definitely you. Now, not everybody who joins our app is going to do this, and I don't expect them to. But this is why the verifier system, I think, is so unique and so cool for the Korihor app, is that every person who joins the app is going to have to be invited by a verifier. Even if you sign up on the front end of the app saying, I would like to participate in the Korihor app, a verifier has to contact you and invite you in to become a person in the Korihor app. If that person is known to you to be a legal adult in the United States or Canada, or in the place where they are from. We're going to go very carefully about international. I'm going to encourage verifiers, unless it's somebody you know extremely well and you know the laws where they live. Let's focus more on bringing in new people who are in the United States and Canada. But if you know somebody in Scotland or you know somebody in Australia, I'm not going to say you can't bring them in. I'm just saying, let's be really careful. And we don't want to involve stepping on, we don't have international attorneys here. So once we have more resources, we can focus more on bringing in people from all over the world, but we are going to be mainly focusing on the area where the Church of Korihor functions, which is in the United States. And but of course, Canadians are welcome in this. I mean, we're all in this together. I'm not going to say you can't bring people in. I'm just saying bring people in that you vouch for. And this is the way that this system is going to work. Verifiers are all going to have to understand. Not every person that you bring in is going to have to give their photo ID to verify that they are an adult and that they are a person in an area, a person who's capable of legally transacting on a social network. But they do need to be an adult. At least for now, I don't think any person under the age of 18 should be using our app, because I don't want them to get exposed to not just to content that may not be appropriate to children, but because I don't think it's healthy for their brain development. I really am concerned that until we have figured out, using the best of science, how minors should engage in online communities, I don't think we should be creating any online services where people who have young, impressionable minds are especially where they become accessible to adults or to bullies and peers, unless we are going to make sure that that is not happening and that better safeguards are put up to protect them. Like I said, just last week we saw Facebook held liable. I'm glad that they were held liable in court because they endanger children. These social media apps are toxic. We have to make sure that the one we build is going to be better. And the main things are this: we're not going to bring any children into the app. We're not going to have any bots. We're not going to have any billionaires. We're not going to put up with any bullshit. What bullshit meaning? One of these ideas that I'm batting around right now is that I'd like to get more of you in here so that we can start talking about how to handle this. Say that one of the biggest problems, and you guys know this, one of the biggest problems that social media apps have is dick pics. And I'm not saying that we need to police everybody in the world and say you don't send dick pics or don't request dick pics, receive dick pics. Dick pics happen between adults, hopefully. And when they happen in an unsolicited way, it's not just rude. It's hurtful. It really causes serious harm. And of course, dick pics is just what I'm calling it. But this could be the same thing with any kind of nudity, any kind of, provocative images. Now, let's not be naive. We live in a world where people look at provocative images all the time, and where we exchange provocative images all the time. Everybody does it. Well, I don't know. Everybody does it. I do it when it's somebody that I know and trust and I have consent with. Managing consent is a very difficult thing to do on social media apps. One thing that I think we're going to need to do is going to be some kind of fair accounting, where either we make it so that, because there is an instant messaging platform in the app. Right now, you cannot send images through the app or files. You can only send text. Either we have to keep it that way and say, look, you want to start texting each other, you take your dirty asses over to Snapchat or something. Or you have to, or we're going to have to make an accountability feature that says for example, any person can report any image in a private conversation to administrators and say, look at my conversation here. I did not solicit this. In fact, I made it clear that it should be pretty clear from the context that this was not welcome. And this person did it anyway, violated the rules, or what have you, or violated consent. Well, violated consent in the end. Or this person endangered somebody, or this person is threatening me, or what have you, and they can immediately report it to administrators. If not that, then something else, and I don't know what. Maybe we make it so that people, and this is the kind of conversations that I think we should have more of going forward as I start inviting people to come onto to Korihor.app and use the app, which again you would use from your web browser. It functions just like an app. I mean, once you get into it and start using it, you're going to be surprised how much it doesn't feel like a website. It is, in fact, an application, a web-based application. But the interesting thing, I think some of the interesting ideas that we could implement might be that anybody can download an entire chat history with maybe certified timestamps that say, this has not been manipulated. This is actual, these are actual messages. So that if in the event that we do have to say, okay, well, this is now a situation where we have to get law enforcement involved, or this is a situation where we have to review whether or not this person should be allowed to continue to use the app. One of the things I would love to see us implement, figure out how to streamline and implement is this vouching system that I just showed you, the verifier system, where if you bring somebody onto the app who is a personal friend of yours, a family member or something, you're like, I don't need that person to give us their photo ID right now. Though I'm just going to tell you now, there are going to be features on the app that you will have to be photo ID verified in order to use them. For example, if you're going to volunteer, if you're going to sign up to volunteer with the unsheltered, or if you're going to sign up to volunteer to serve in a women's shelter or something like that, before you can even get into that mission, we're going to say, are you photo ID verified? If not, you need to get photo ID verified before we do that. And then a human being, not a robot, not an AI agent, a person of trust in the community, either a member of the clergy, an administrator, or a verifier who is just a user, a person who has given their photo ID and who has gone through all the proper commitments, would then check your photo ID, verify that it is not AI generated to the best of their knowledge or understanding, using whatever tools we're going to employ with that, and then verify that this person actually is an adult person who fits all the rules. And there's going to be a third level of verification. The third level of verification, which is going to be very important, especially as we start to bring people in and ordain them as luminaries in the Church of Korihor, is that every person of responsibility, and especially where they have access to the public and where they represent the Church of Korihor to the public, or our missions to the public, and especially if they have any access to vulnerable communities, including seniors, Black and Indigenous people of color, LGBTQIA plus communities, or children, they absolutely, no exceptions, have to be criminal background checked and ensured that they are also, and checked to make sure that they are not on any sex offender registry. And so I'm working on developing that feature next, so that verifiers will be able to take criminal background checks that people submit for themselves and say, oh, well, this is no problem. I work for a defense contractor, so I have to get regular background checks. Great. You could just provide us with yours. We go and verify that criminal background check is real and recent. Otherwise, you'll need to go and get one and submit it, or you need to give it to us give us your consent to do a background check on you, and then help us to defray the cost. Basically, you're going to have to pay a fee so that we can pay for it. I'd rather not have to do that, to be honest with you, but I certainly understand that there may be situations where somebody's like, I don't want to have to do my own criminal background check. Can I just give you the money and you just go do it? We'll have to figure that out as we go. Again, there are people out there who do this kind of stuff professionally or have expertise in it, and I need to get those people onto the app. So I'm excited about it. I've been reaching out to some people. If you're out there, and I've been, talking to you for a while about, I'm going to get you on the Korihor app so that you can give me your feedback. I apologize it's taken me so long. I have run into some problems with some bugs in the onboarding system, and I think I've fixed them all. But in the coming days, I'm going to be sending you access to the app. Otherwise, Go to korihor.app, fill out that you want to that you would like to be an early adopter. If you are known to me, I'm likely to verify you and say I know, which means that I send you an invite, and it will say I will put down, I have known this person for this long. I know that they are an adult, a competent adult, and that they are either a resident, either a U.S. person, or they are a person who abides the law where they are, and I vouch for you. And in the future, this is the way this system is going to work. When we find somebody is bringing in bots, is bringing in children, or is bringing in and fake accounts, or is bringing in people who are working with malice towards our community or endangering the community, the person who vouches for them is going to bear some responsibility. I'm not saying we're going to punish them. They're going to bear some responsibility in helping us to clear it up and to be able to say, hey, listen, you vouched for this guy, and now he's out here sending dick pics to everybody. Or you vouched for this person, and now they're saying racist stuff in missions, and we're not going to just take their post down just because they're doing it. We have a system. I'm developing the system where we have kind of like a 3 strikes you're out kind of thing that then sends that person into suspension if it's bad enough, and then closes their account, does not shadow ban. I believe very much the shadow ban is stupid. Shadow banning is ridiculous. I understand why social media networks do it, even though they all claim they don't. But it's so stupid, and it doesn't. And they do it for the stupidest reasons, and it's all managed by AI. And I'm like, no. We're gonna have human beings who are going to review your situation and say either, hey, kick this person out of this mission so that they don't have access to the people who are in there, or kick them off the platform and don't let them back in. All of that is going to at some point involve the person who vouched for you. If I brought you in and I vouched for you, that's going to come up, and that comment of I have known this person for so long, I know them, blah 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 blah, so that we can go to that person and say, do you really? Did you know that person? And how well do you know them? Do you know that they're doing something over here that is extremely toxic? And we need to review, number one, what to do with this situation with this person, and number two, did we make a mistake by making you a verifier, and do we need to review other people that you've brought onto the app? Because as you can imagine, if all it takes is for one person to slip through the cracks and end up becoming a verifier, and then and they go in and let in a whole bunch of put in a whole bunch of Russian bots or something like this, or whatever into the system for at least if it's that one person bringing them all in, then we instantly have a system to go in and start pulling them out. Or if somebody's engaged in some kind of criminal activity, this way, when whoever vouched for them brought them in, we can be able to look at who else have they brought in, and are they just bringing in criminal elements into our system? I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying this will be the first social media network that I know of that is taking an active role in a cyber secure way. Because I had this conversation with the AI system. I said, I don't know the standards for how to store photo IDs. As I understand it, there are laws about this. And it came up and said, oh yeah, there are laws. And then it says basically, and it came up with this protocol for how you store, how to safely store private personal information like a photo ID, and what terms and conditions need to be outlined in the terms and conditions when a person agrees to join the app, and or when they agree to give their photo ID, that you make it clear that this is optional. It's so that you can get access to certain features on the app, but so that you're aware, we store the photo ID in an encrypted database on a separate server where it's not vulnerable, and where only select roles inside the organization are able to gain access to that, and only for the following reasons, and that is disclosed to to you when you join the app. And if we change that, then every person I implemented a system, a terms and conditions update system now that hopefully works. We're going to find out soon enough. That says if we change the way that is done, or change those terms and conditions, before you can get back into the app, it's going to log you out of the app. And then when you go back to log in, it's going to say, we changed the terms and conditions. You have to agree to them in order to continue using the app, so that we make sure that all that versioning of the different features is all being securely handled. I'm taking the best care I can here to make sure that our little vibe coded app is actually the most secure and social network of accounts that have heartbeats, where only human beings will have access to the app. And in order to get access to the most sensitive work and to the most important work, we're going to make sure that you are who you say you are, that you are not a registered sex offender. So I'm not saying that registered sex offenders won't be able to get onto the app, because there are some people who are registered sex offenders, for reasons that apparently make sense where they live, and are not necessarily bad people. But if they are registered sex offenders, I might even go so far as, and again, these are conversations we're going to have. And I'd love to get more of you guys in on this, so we can have a conversation about this. Is maybe we make it so that I say, look, like there are Romeo and Juliet situations where people get on a sex offender registry because they slept with their girlfriend or boyfriend at prom, and there's like 2 years difference between them, but one of them was 18, one of them was 16, or something like that. And it's like, it's unfair perhaps to put that person on a sex offender registry for the rest of their life because, they slept with their girlfriend or boyfriend at prom. That's not a conversation that I think we need to have in terms of the legal thing. But it's reasonable to say, I think, to say something like, some people should be able to say, if a person is a registered sex offender, don't let them message me. Don't let them follow me. I'm very sensitive about that. I would love to see that as a feature. I don't think we're ever going to see that on Facebook. I don't think we're ever going to see that on Twitter. I can almost guarantee you we'll never see anything like that on Twitter, where we will be able to set up a feature like, look, I am a person who was victimized as a child. So if a person has a history of domestic violence, I don't want them contacting me. I don't want them following my content. I don't want them seeing my content. Or I don't want them in this mission where I am serving serving in a mission where we are providing therapy for autistic children, or providing safe play for autistic people, and there are children involved in that mission, or serving, people who have families. And I don't want anybody serving in that mission with me who has not been positively identified as not having a history of domestic violence. And so it's like, let's talk about it. Let's create these rules. Let's create these systems that keep people safe, and do this work in a more secure way than just the bare bones minimum required by law, which is what all these social media apps are doing. And I personally believe that it's the reason why these apps are making us so sick. They're making us depressed, yes. They're also leading us down to sink our time and our attention and our money and our focus on selfish pursuits that stop our spiritual development in terms of making conscious decisions that benefit the world, benefit other human beings and conscious creatures, and give you a sense of purpose and direction in your life. For me, as an atheist and agnostic, that is the most important thing I could be doing in my life right now, is helping other people, myself and other people, to every day in our lives come up with more and more opportunities, reduce opportunities to throw away our lives, throw away our resources, throw away our time on doing what billionaires who spent some portion of their lives emailing Jeffrey Epstein for when can I go to the island. Instead, we need to stop giving those people our attention. Stop giving them our votes. I'm not telling you who to vote for, just generally speaking. This isn't about any one person. Stop giving them access to our minds and our attention and to our focus, and start turning our attention to the fact, like I said before, when someone asked me just a couple weeks ago, with the Church of Korihor, the church for godless people, right? Right. What's the theology of it? I said like this. You want to know the theology of the Church of Korihor? It goes like this. There are people who are cold. If there are gods who could have prevented that, fuck them. Get a blanket and let's go. And that right there, that's more than snark. Okay. I spent enough of my life as an atheist bitching and moaning on the internet about how if I were the head of the Mormon church, we would be doing this differently. If I were the Pope of the Catholic Church, we would all be doing this. We would be doing this completely differently because atheists are better people. Okay. Put up or shut up. I say to me, one day I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, proverbially, and said, Joseph Rollins, put up or shut up. Don't get out there. Don't just go out there and whine and bitch and moan about how they aren't doing it with their churches. If a church is the kind of institution that could be making a change, and I believe it can, I don't think that it should be exclusively churches. I think that there should have been an atheist equivalent of a church. And so I looked at it and said, well, technically, they don't really have a hard definition of what a church is. An atheist could have a church, and you don't need a lot of money to get it started. It costs $80 to register with the state. I had to borrow it from a friend because I was in a bad financial situation at the time, which I often am. And for $80, the Church of Korihor was born. Just last December, we renewed again. I think it was like $20 to renew with the state. And this church is actually doing things. Like there are people who talk about it, people who come around and talk to me and have brought it up to me and said, I heard that there's a church for atheists that is actually taking blankets to the unsheltered. And someone told me you know about it. Like I've had people say this to me, to my face. I said, there is one. Would you like to know more about it? And they say, sure. I said, it's called the Church of Korihor. It was founded in Utah. It's a blah, 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 blah. Great. Do you know people there? Yeah. Yeah, I do. What do you want to do? Do you want to send a blanket? Do you want to send blankets? Do you want to come help us? Do you want to join our mission to go out and actually send people out there? Well, do you know anybody who can help me and get set up? Okay, fine. Okay, let me just disclose this to you. The person you're talking about is me. I'm Joe Rollins, the Church of Korihor. We're real. We're a real thing. We're actually doing it. And when they, I've had ex-Mormons, prominent people whose names I won't mention to you here, who it got back to me. They said, so-and-so wants to promote the Church of Korihor. I said, fantastic. They have a large circle of influence. Excellent. So again, I'm not going to say the name because I'm not saying they did anything bad. They said they want to see footage of the blanket mission actually happening. They said they can go to our YouTube channel and we have videos there. They can just look at them. Yeah, they want access to like a whole bunch of like raw footage and things, and you'll be able to see. They want you to help them put together something about that's just for their network to prove that you are legit. And I said, no. What? No. Look, the people who are impressed with our work, they see what we produce and they want to get involved. If you need more than those people, you're not ready. That's all there is to it. And I said, look, I've said this, I've had opportunities to say this. I'm like, I love that this is a big tent, especially in the ex-Mormon world, and lots of different kinds of people are engaged in it and working in it. But I can tell you there is a difference between people who are conscious beings that are working towards spiritual development, and then there are some who just want to sit on the internet and bitch about how Mormonism is bullshit. And I know it because I spent 20 years of my life being in the one camp and only the last 4 or so in the other camp. And I can tell you, I'm out here looking for the people I don't have to convince to stop being just somebody who gets on the internet to bitch about somebody else's religion and start being somebody who's doing something that makes you smile, that makes you happy, that makes you feel like your life is meaningful and purposeful because you are helping other people or because you are working on yourself. To wit, again, I said I was going to stop and it's been 3 hours. I'm going to stop after this. You see this app right here? So I showed you the verification. I want the verifier system. And come back to you. This is a caring post that doesn't work. Again, I mean, the post works. But this is an example of what it will look like when we get the meditation app up and running again for overview, our meditation process, and people will be able to take a break, drop out on a regular basis, and just with a gentle reminder every once in a while says, hey, maybe you take a moment, stop, and experience overview. You're going to love it. It's a beautiful process. Ever since I started showing people overview, they love it. Other opportunities are going to be something like this. Healing starts with deconstructing. So this is going to be for a feature of the app I've been talking about doing, thinking about, and journaling out and figuring out how it will work. And it's called Sage. Sage is a system where, let me make sure that I'm still visible and audible. Sage is a system where, say, for example, you're deconstructing from a divorce. Many of you know the Church of Korihor is one of the few, or actually, as far as I know, the only church out there in the world that has a ceremony for divorce. And I have said for a while, as a recently divorced man, as a person who serves in the atheist community, the ex-Mormon community, that one of the most important opportunities for spiritual growth for atheists, for agnostics, and for people who are nuns and people who have no religion at all, or even people who believe in God but don't want to assign any religious idea to it, or even religious people, screw it. One of the most spiritually important things that people do with their lives is to get divorced. Because divorce is a commitment, marriage is a commitment we made when we were young and optimistic about the world with a person we thought we knew, but that there was no way that we fully knew who they were when we married them. There's certainly no way that you fully know who they're going to be 10, 15, 20 years into the future. And when you make a decision that you are going to move into the next phase of your life without that person, at least without that person in the role that they were in, because you have grown in a different direction, and or you've decided to release that person from you and from your trauma, your bad behaviors, your bad habits, or just from the dynamic that belonged to the two of you when you were effectively children. People get married at 18, 19 years old. There's no way that the person you were when you were 18 or 19 years old is the person you were at 40. There's just no freaking way. So it's a surprise to people who have this religious perspective of what family is and what couples are and what love is. And they say, why are people getting divorced in their 40s? Because they got married when they were 18. They didn't know who the hell they were, much less who that other person was. And they certainly don't know who they were going to grow into. And over 20 years of experience with that person, you're going to grow. hopefully. And if you grow, there's no assurance that you're going to grow together. Now, maybe it happens. In fact, I know it happens with me and my wife, my ex-wife. It was most of our marriage was the two of us growing together. We grew into ex-Mormons together. We grew into parents, becoming parents together. We grew into becoming liberal Democrats and then eventually leftists together. We grew as people. We grew as autistic people. We grew as parents of autistic children together. We also grew apart. And eventually the moment came where we said, it's time to quit. It's time to quit on this because we are both ready. We're both ready to accept responsibility for our mistakes and also for our future and to start feeling excited about who we are going to become as people. It's one of the most spiritually significant things you do in life is to get divorced. So here's what I'm looking at saying. We need opportunities for people who are getting divorced to work through a sort of journaling, shadow work process that is both text-based and also image-based. You get married, what do? You have pictures, you get videos, a wedding video. I know that, of course, we all know this, but I know the value of this because I started out my video production career making wedding videos. That was my main bread and butter when I was a teenager, back when people still did that. Because pictures and images, music, words, spoken word, the pacing, the experience of a video is a great way to express how you are growing as a person and how you are growing as a couple. Well, when you leave each other and move on to the next phase of your life, it's just as important, I think. But instead of making just a video, I said, what if you made a kind of interactive slideshow and a normal person could put in pictures, their wedding pictures, or some stock photo or some, portraits or something like this, write out the experience, answer some basic questions, go through a little wizard basically, where you put in your thoughts and feelings, you work it out, and you basically go through a journaling experience. This is the sage, I'm calling the sage. And you go through basically a shadow work journaling experience of expressing what is valuable and important to you personally about what you got from your marriage, about what you got from being a parent, about what you got from being, being one of the first gay married couples legally married in the United States, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is that is valuable and important to you, put it together with images, text, maybe some audio, however we work that out. And we got years to work this out. It doesn't have to all happen overnight. But I'm just giving you kind of a vision of what I see here. And then it creates it into an HTML/Java based self-contained application that is effectively a website with code built into it and multimedia built into it that has this cross-platform works on, or in other words, works on your iPhone, works on your Android, it works on a Mac, it works on a PC. It has a self-contained file that any person would be able to just click on it, open it up, and it plays this interactive experience that is custom built for you, by you, with your words, your voice, your music, your pictures, your experience, and what is true and meaningful and beautiful to you about how you have grown and developed as a person. And then that file, very important, you can just save to your device, whether that's your desktop or your phone, and just keep it. Just have it. Just to have. Or if it's important to you to express it, you can take that file and you can send it to someone. Send it to your ex. Send it to your parents. Send it to your kids. Send it to your loved ones. Send it in an email to all of your spouse's family, whatever. Send it to your family, or post it on the Korihor app and let people watch it and interact with it and add their comments and add their support. Maybe we will even create like a standard. Instead of just comments, it can be like a, hey, say something nice or don't say anything at all. Let's talk about it. Let's come up with these ideas. What ideas do you have to make Sage better? What ideas do you have to make Sage more practical? What do what can you contribute, or who can you introduce us to who thinks this is a good idea and has expertise in doing something exactly like this? What celebrities would you like to hear talk on this subject? Maybe we can invite, what am I thinking of? Mel Robbins or whatever. Robbins? Whatever. Maybe we'll invite, I'd love to get Natasha Helford to work with us on some of this stuff. I'd love to get maybe John DeLynn in here. Mel Gibson. No, not Mel Gibson. Although, congrats to Mel Gibson for the vindication he's getting right now. I still think he's nuts. Sadly, there's a future here where people on a regular basis may wind up one day looking back and saying, the last 5, 6, 7, 8 days, I have not gotten onto Amazon to browse through reasons to throw my money away once. I have not gone shopping for new insurance once in the last month. I have not spent one day doom scrolling through all of the reasons to think that my country has gone to shit. I've not spent one day in the last week where I have been sitting here jealously looking at how everybody's skinnier than I am, or got bigger boobs than I have, or obviously has more money than I have. I didn't spend one day thinking about how little I had or how little reason to hope I had. I spent every day of my life where I did at least one thing for a stranger, or I spent every day of my life where I did something that made me realize I had grown as a person, or I made a commitment to stop a bad habit or start a good habit. One day, that could be all the people on this one app. And when people ask us, what is it about this app? People talk about Korihor. Sounds stupid. What is this even about? We'll be able to look at them and say, dude, you just don't know. This app changed my life. Or we'll fail. Either way, it's going to be a blast figuring it out as a community. I love you guys' faces. Sorry to chat your ear off for 4 hours almost. I started out all snarky, but I'm going to end out on a happy note here. And I'm going to give you a godless hymn that makes me feel good. We're not going to just resort back to the same new hymns, though I will tell you, I don't know if you guys do this too. Now that I've added the From This Breath, the new hymn, godless hymn, and Jezebel to our to Korihor.org, I listen to them every day. From This Breath is may be one of my favorite godless hymns ever, frankly. But I wanted to share something pretty amazing, I think, for me, that I've been thinking about, and I thought would be appropriate for today with the launch of Artemis 2. Don't love NASA's current trajectory and what they want to do with these moon missions. but going back to the moon has got me excited again. And so I wanted to share with you, if I can find it, We're Going Home, the short. Is this the one? Maybe this one. This is the old version. This version's going to go away. So I thought I would play it for you in its entirety just a few more times over the course of the next few days before the new version, which is way cooler in my opinion, gets launched. So yeah, I thought it would be a good thing this is a 7-minute video. I thought it would be a great way to wrap up tonight. Thanks for sticking around, you guys. I want to thank my friend Chris Mortensen, also known as Captain Borax, for coming on to talk about Laura Aime. I also want to thank my researchers out there who are helping me with the Tim Ballard, especially, am I saying your name? Especially my friend Meryl, for helping me out with research so that I don't have to spend all day working on stuff that makes me feel miserable and depressed half the time, and just rant about it for a few minutes and then go on with our lives. And thank you to everybody who's willing to help out with the Korihor app. I'm sorry it's taking so long to get it going. I'm just trying to make sure to get it right. We're going home. I want to tell you the story of the Korihor sigil, or the Koaz. That's the symbol of the Church of Korihor. Now, we're a church for godless people, so it's probably no surprise that this story, it's kind of geeky. In April 1970, Apollo 13 was on the third mission to land on the moon. But 2 days into the journey, an oxygen tank in their service module exploded, crippling the spacecraft and leaving astronauts Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes in a desperate fight to get home alive. They had to shut down most of the electronics on their spacecraft, including the guidance computer that charted their way home. But on their way back toward Earth, they discovered that they were coming in too shallow and too fast. Unless they corrected course and slowed down, they would bounce off the Earth's atmosphere into space, where they surely would die. They figured that they could manually fire the lunar module's engine, but they would only have 14 seconds of fuel. Now, if you're going to be stuck in outer space without a guidance computer, the guy you want with you is Jim Lovell. When Lovell was the command module pilot on Apollo 8, Mission Control had him rehearse this exact scenario. Astronaut means sailor of the stars, but really every sailor is an astronaut, because one of humanity's greatest instruments has been the sextant, an instrument to judge your place by measuring your placement to the stars. Well, the Apollo 13 service module had a modern version of a sextant built into it. And Jim Lovell was the first man in space to navigate to the moon and back, at least partly, with only the stars to go by. But Apollo 13 had a problem that Apollo 8 did not. Debris from the explosion obscured Lovell's view so that he couldn't see the stars through the sextant. This is where it would be easy to give up. The crew of Aquarius could blame Houston, Houston could blame them. They could despair and shut down. But none of those options were a way home. That's when Jim Lovell came up with a pretty innovative idea, the Crewman Optical Alignment Sight, or COAS. Now, the COAS is basically like the crosshairs of a rifle scope, designed to align the two parts of the spacecraft while they were docking. Now, Lovell fixed that bullseye instead on the only fixed point in space that he could see through the lunar module window, Earth. They chose the Earth's terminator line, the line between the day and night sides of the Earth, as the reference point, keeping the Earth's terminator line lined up in the COAS, with Jim controlling the yaw and the burn and Fred manning the pitch, and Jack timing the burn on his watch. They fired the engines and corrected that angle in 14 seconds.
Guide me by morning light side. With doubts and dreams take flight. We flash in the dark, so let's flash bright. On a mission to save ourselves, break with dogma, with these shells. My friend, if you choose to be free, I'll light your path if you'll walk with me. We're going home to where we'll find a world where life is worth the climb. One day we will crash and we will die. Oh, my friends, that's not tonight.
You know, I remember when Apollo 13, the movie, came out, Tom Hanks says to Bill Paxton and Kevin Bacon, 0 Degrees, "Gentlemen, what are your intentions?" "I'd like to go home. You and I are living in an emergency. We can't see the stars, and our guidance computer isn't working. We have to line up the real world in the COAS. We have to use courage. We have to use tenacity and innovation. We're going to have to science the shit out of this if we're going to make a world that we want to live in. And to do that, you need godless people. This is our time. This is the time when we need atheists and agnostics to get religion, but instead of a religion about God, we need a religion about us. We are our saviors. This is our time."
No more shadows in our mind. Leave the fears and past behind. On this pale blue dot, we will make our stand. Light within, we will be our hands. We're going home to where we'll find a world where life is worth the climb. One day we will crash and we will die. Oh, my friends, that's not tonight. Come on, science, our path is clear. Strangers once, our re-entry nears. Sighting land, we'll quit this sea. I'm going home. Who will come with me?
I'll fail. I'll start again. I'm looking for people who have the courage to fail with me till we find all the ways to fail, or by some stroke of luck, we go home. Amen.
By math and science, our path is clear. Strangers once, our re-entry nears. Sighting land, we'll quit this sea. I'm going home. Who